Chapter 4383. However, as soon as the spikes pierced into Shibai's body, Taoist Witch let out a deep roar. The roar seemed to come from the abyss, yet it also seemed to come from the sky. At the same time, Shibai's light figure began to tremble violently. Along with the trembling, an unparalleled bloodline power was born from the light figure of Shibai. Wherever the spikes pierced into, the green seal script turned into tiny whirlpools. The bloodline power flowed through the spikes and rushed into the body of the five-colored sea god shell. Woo! The entire five-colored sea god shell turned upside down. A huge five-colored halo appeared from afar. It was the primordial spirit of the five-colored sea god shell. Oh no! The five-colored sea god shell was shocked. He didn't expect Taoist Witch to have such an unfathomable ability. His biggest reliance was the five-colored halo. This halo contained the truth of the five elements. Everything in the world would be restrained by this five-colored halo. Unfortunately, Taoist Witch's ability was a soul cultivator. It had nothing to do with the five elements. Even the brush was a brush of life. It didn't belong to the five elements either. That was why the five-colored sea god shell's ability failed. In addition to the five-colored halo, one of the divine powers of the five-colored seashell was the five-colored realm. The realm was bordered by the shell of the seashell. Any cultivator, whether human or demon, who was enveloped by the realm, would be isolated from the outside world. Even if the great sage of the demon tribe had the star mark, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape from the realm. The golden-winged great rock once fell into the sea god shell and spent a lot of effort to escape. Unfortunately, the five-colored sea god shell didn't know that Taoist Witch had obtained the inheritance of the 13 great gods of Meng Mountain. Shibai's bloodline power was one of them. When the five-colored sea god shell trapped Taoist Witch in its five-colored sea god shell, it isolated Taoist Witch from the outside world. However, it also exposed its primordial spirit to Taoist Witch. Although his original body was everywhere in this five-colored domain, his actions were tantamount to inviting a wolf into the house when faced with the bloodline power of a ninth-grade elemental force. Therefore, when Taoist Witch activated his bloodline power, the five-colored sea god shell hit his primordial spirit very well. All illusions were useless in front of the ubiquitous bloodline power. Taoist Witch's primordial spirit was easily pulled out his primordial spirit. The five-colored sea god seashell was really scared out of his wits. At this moment, his primordial spirit was hundreds of miles away from Taoist sorcerer. However, this distance was nothing in the eyes of the great sage of the demon clan. Almost without hesitation, the bloodline primordial spirit general opened its mouth and a pillar of five-colored brilliance shot into the sky, piercing straight towards Taoist Witch's head. Taoist Witch was Taoist Witch was Taoist Witch was Taoist Witch. Taoist Witch wasn't afraid at all. He waved his hand and the brush waved in front of his eyes. A picture of plum blossoms suddenly appeared. The plum blossoms seemed to come alive as the brush was lifted. They expanded rapidly and covered hundreds of miles of space in an instant. The plum blossoms on the plum blossoms contained endless vitality. When the murderous light beam landed on the plum blossoms, it turned into nothing. Although the light beam was so powerful that the plum blossom's vitality couldn't completely destroy it, the five-colored sea god shell's primordial spirit dimmed in the explosion. On the other side, Taoist Witch also opened his mouth. Whoosh! The thick green light beam condensed into the shape of a flying sword. It pierced through space and flew towards the primordial spirit in the distance. Gotcha! Seeing the soul sword fly out, the five-colored sea god shell felt a sense of danger from his soul. He didn't dare to be careless. He couldn't care less about his primordial spirit being restrained by Taoist Witch's bloodline power. He hurriedly activated the power of space and layers of five-colored spatial barriers appeared. However, the barriers were transparent in front of the soul sword. The soul sword wasn't restricted by the power of space at all. It forced its way towards the primordial spirit even faster than lightning. Faced with such a strange soul cultivator's attack, the five-colored sea god seashell could only dodge. However, his primordial spirit was controlled by the power of Taoist Witch's bloodline. Not only could he not dodge, he was also pulled towards the soul sword. At this point, the five-colored sea god seashell didn't dare to hold back anymore. Boom! With a loud sound, the five-colored halos within thousands of miles suddenly surged and the entire five-colored realm collapsed. As the starlight shone high up in the sky, two giant shells engraved with mysterious ultimacy shook in the distance. Taoist Witch sensed that his bloodline power had missed. Similarly, where the soul sword landed, rings of five-colored halos bloomed like flowers. However, the soul sword couldn't break through the defense of the five-colored sea god seashell. Taoist Witch didn't dare to be careless. He hurriedly kept his soul sword. Then, he raised his hand and imitated Xiao Hua. Boom! A bunch of green seal text rushed into the sky, and countless godly and ghostly sounds reverberated within a 1,000-mile radius. The green seal text landed on Daoist sorcerer's body, and Great God Shibai's image changed again. He turned into the image of Great God Dijiang with a human face, a bird's body, 4 wings on his back, and 6 claws on his chest, abdomen, and legs. As Great God Dijiang was born, Taoist Witch suddenly flashed and flew to the sky above the five-colored seashell. Taoist Witch waved his 6 claws, and a dark green brilliance shrouded thousands of miles in starlight. A space domain was formed. Great God Dijiang had the power of space. Taoist Witch used the power of space to trap the great saint of the demon race in the five-colored sea god shell. The five-colored sea god shell was lured away by Taoist Witch. Only Golden Wing Great Peng and Xiao Hua were left in the sky. Golden Wing Great Peng wasn't in a hurry to attack. Instead, he coldly looked at the two groups and said to Xiao Hua, "Human Great Ascension Stage, you're quite capable. You were able to recruit so many experts. It seems that this saint underestimated you." Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and said flatly, "It's nothing. They're just my avatars." Haha. The golden-winged great rock raised his head and laughed loudly. You might be able to fool a 7th-grade origin energy kid with such a crude lie. But if you bring it to us, the great sages of the demon race, wouldn't you be looking down on us? No matter how exquisite your Dao techniques are, how can you refine another Confucian avatar with the same cultivation level as you? Even the most wondrous avatar technique of the demon race can't refine so many completely independent avatars. Xiao Hua smiled but did not reply. The golden-winged Great Peng thought that he had exposed Xiao Hua's lie and said, "You don't have to hide anything. Your human race has secretly nurtured so many supreme cultivators. What exactly are you planning? If this saint hadn't come to Bai Qingyu on a whim today, I really wouldn't have thought that the demon race would covet the 1,000-demon sacred realm before the battle between immortals and Buddhas has ended." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He couldn't explain it. It was originally a very simple matter, but when it came from the mouth of the first great saint of the demon race, it immediately became too complicated. It actually reached the level of a war between the demon race and the demon race. Do you want to answer now? Or do you want to wait until this saint kills you? Golden Wing Great Peng asked coldly. Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't answer, Golden Wing Great Peng spread his wings. Seeing that the space around the golden-winged great rock had already formed countless tiny whirlpools and streams of moonlight were pouring out, Xiao Hua naturally knew that this question was merely a challenge. Today's battle was already unavoidable. "Let's fight." Xiao Hua spat out 2 words faintly. Then his figure flashed, turning into lightning and rushing towards Golden Wing Great Peng. The wishful staff in his hand had already been swung out. The golden-winged Great Peng had been accumulating power for a long time. When it saw Xiao Hua flying over, it spread its wings, and its entire body turned into a stream of light. Its 2 golden claws carried the power of heaven and earth, and the aura of a great sage. As it descended from the sky towards Xiao Hua's head, boom! The wishful steel staff hit the golden claw, but a small crack appeared on the golden claw. Several unmatched forces poured out from the cracks of the claw. Xiao Hua's wishful steel staff flew diagonally with the golden light. Xiao Hua's body was hit by the demon body of the golden-winged giant Peng bird. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed. He knew that his magical power was not the opponent of the first master of the demon race. Then he grabbed with both hands. Boom! The thick 9th heaven divine thunder turned into a thundersword in Xiao Hua's hand. Looking at the golden wing Great Peng's figure, which was more ferocious than a mountain, Xiao Hua stretched out his hand. The thunder cut through the sky and hit the wings of the golden wing Great Peng. Boom! Where the lightning landed, the golden-winged rock's body was stopped. Although its wings, which seemed to be made of gold, were bombarded into a mess by the lightning. The golden light that overflowed once again annihilated the lightning. Damn it! The feathers of the golden-winged great pung were disheveled. He couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and angry. He also cursed and flapped his wings. Ooh! A hurricane was born, blowing the space within 1,000 miles until it collapsed. The powerful hurricane landed on Xiao Hua's body. Not only did it cause his protective light to sway, but it also made it impossible for him to stand steadily in the air. He was about to fall into the distance. But just as Xiao Hua's figure was just out of balance and fell into the hurricane. Whoosh! Suddenly, Xiao Hua's body flashed with a light blue brilliance. Then Xiao Hua urged the wind escape technique. Against the wind, he approached the golden wing great pung in the blink of an eye. Oh! Seeing that Xiao Hua actually knew the wind escape technique, the golden wing great pung was a little surprised. However, he was not afraid of anything. With a flap of his right wing, it seemed as if the entire sky was collapsing as he smashed towards Xiao Hua. Rumble! The golden-winged rock's right wing had only just flapped when Xiao Hua first moved. As his hands rubbed, thousands of crystal lights fell into the air, and layers of divine lightning from the 9 heavens were born from the top of his head, rushing towards the golden-winged rock like a mountain flood. Moreover, just as the lightning poured down, Xiao Hua waved his hands slightly again. Hundreds of strands of 4-colored spiritual fire were caught in the lightning and rushed towards the golden-winged great pung. P.S. Thank you, Mr. Xianqing, for representing all the fellow Taoists. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your support. Chapter 4384. The golden-winged rock's right wing had already flapped out. The space within a few hundred li had just collapsed when it was immediately covered by the lightning tide, disappearing without a trace in a few breaths of time. As for the golden-winged rock, the golden light in its eyes flickered. With a clear cry, its entire demonic body suddenly retreated, and its pair of golden wings flapped again. This time was different from before. Not only did the wings burst forth with a pillar of starlight, the innate demonic characters on the feathers also appeared. Along with the flapping of the wings, there were also tens of millions of golden lights that either condensed into flying swords or sharp thorns, attacking the lightning tide like a storm. Boom! 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 An explosion that was even more violent than the other two battles shook the sky thousands of miles away. The golden-winged rock let out another sharp cry. Its wings flapped, and its entire demonic body flew out from the explosion, attacking Xiao Hua. Clearly, it wanted to take advantage of the victory to pursue and attack. How could Xiao Hua not know what it was thinking? Seeing its demonic body appear, Xiao Hua raised his hand and waved it. Once again, an extremely large amount of lightning condensed into a huge fist and struck down. Seeing that it had just flown past the explosion and was about to be hit by a fist, the golden-winged great rock opened its mouth. Woo! A golden beam of light shot out and hit the fist. With a loud bang, the fist was shattered, and the lightning scattered everywhere. That golden pillar of light was also annihilated in midair. The golden-winged rock flew out proudly. Boom, boom, boom. Another few faint sounds of fire whistling rang out. Between the golden-winged rock's wings, abdomen, and other parts, they were all ignited by the 4-colored spiritual fire. Haha! Xiao Hua laughed. The large hand that was originally going to attract the golden-winged rock's attention dissipated in midair, and he raised his hand again to prepare a transcendent artifact. How is this possible? Seeing its own golden feathers actually melting under the 4-colored spiritual fire, and the demonic characters on its abdomen feathers being annihilated by the 4-colored spiritual fire, the golden-winged rock almost didn't dare to believe its own eyes. He hurriedly retreated and flapped his wings again. Beams of starlight and moonlight and demonic runes surged, trying to destroy the 4-colored spiritual fire. Unfortunately, when all the power of the stars and moon and the demonic runes landed on the 4-colored spiritual fire, not only was it unable to extinguish the spiritual fire, but it also made the spiritual fire even more vigorous. Furthermore, the violent hurricane was unable to extinguish the 4-colored spiritual fire. The 4-colored spiritual fire was like a maggot that followed the golden-winged rock closely. Hand over your life. Seeing the golden-winged rock in panic, Xiao Hua roared and waved his hand, releasing the death spirit origin light. Boom! The thing with a nose and eyes appeared on the sword gourd. And then the death spirit origin light also soared into the sky, falling towards the golden-winged rock's neck. Swoosh! At this moment, the golden crown on the golden-winged rock's head emitted a golden light. This golden light was oval in shape and covered the golden-winged rock's head. When the death spirit origin light landed on this golden light, it was unable to cut down anymore. The golden-winged rock snorted coldly again, and a layer of strange demonic characters appeared on its demonic body again. After this demonic character appeared, a phantom of the golden-winged rock was born, like a molted shell, and the real demonic body had clearly shrunk by one size. Although it was only a space of a few miles, the four-colored spiritual fire was actually unable to pass through the phantom formed by the demonic characters. Whoosh! Seeing that the demonic characters were effective, the golden-winged rock immediately flew and escaped from the shell. Looking at the demonic character shell again, in just a few breaths, it had already been completely engulfed by the four-colored spiritual fire. Huff! The golden-winged rock let out a long breath, and the flashing golden eyes revealed an ominous glint. Looking at Xiaohua in the distance, it was about to attack again. Suddenly, the golden-winged rock was stunned. The golden light in its eyes suddenly converged, and then circles of golden light shot out from its eyes. What was extremely strange was that where the golden light fell, the space seemed to be washed by a rainstorm, and the scenery changed. When the mist covering the scenery was lifted, the golden-winged rock was surprised to find that the previous four-color spirit fire was not extinguished at all, but it was frantically burning its wings and beastkin body. Looking at Xiaohua in the distance, he was holding the sword gourd in his left hand, and he was making gestures again. There was a mirage butterfly on his shoulder, and there was also a trace of surprise on his face. It turned out that everything just now was just an illusion created by the dream mirage butterfly. Xiaohua wanted to use this illusion to let the four-colored spiritual fire completely kill the golden-winged rock. Unfortunately, the golden-winged rock was really powerful, and this illusion was still discovered by it. However, the golden-winged rock did not have time to think too much, because at the same time that the illusion disappeared, a golden light fell from the sky along with Xiaohua's seal again. This golden light was so sharp that even the golden-winged rock could not help but be startled. The golden-winged rock could not care about the four-colored spiritual fire around its body. Its figure hurriedly shook towards the sky, and huge phantoms instantly appeared in the air. The golden-winged rock's astonished expression could be seen clearly in each of the phantoms. Shwa! There was a soft sound like rain falling on banana leaves. The golden light of the soaring dragon scissors fell, and each of the phantoms was cut with a bloody mark. In the sky above 100 miles, the golden-winged rock's mournful cry suddenly sounded. A string of golden blood drops fell with the wind. The soaring dragon scissors had succeeded in one strike. Xiaohua could not believe his eyes. This was the strongest expert of the demon clan. How could it be so easily injured by him? However, at this time Xiaohua could not care so much. He raised his hand and the soaring dragon scissors turned into a dragon again. The dragon's tail moved high in the sky, and like lightning, it struck the golden-winged rock again. Meanwhile, his figure soared into the sky, and the thunderous hand struck towards the golden-winged great rock like a meteor. Whether it was the soaring dragon scissors or the big hand, they had already stirred up the surrounding hundreds of miles of space. When the heaven-earth yuan-qi fell, the brilliance of the stars and the moon was mixed in. Waves of black and white void power also came to join in the fun. It was really a scene of chaos. Shwa! There was no surprise. The soaring dragon scissors once again struck the golden-winged rock's body, and another drop of golden blood fell. At the same time, Xiaohua's thunderhand also hit the golden-winged rock's body. The several hundred miles of demonic body was hit by the big hand, and the four-colored spiritual fire had already completely covered the golden-winged rock's demonic body. Damn it! In the flames, the golden-winged rock's eyes were still golden like lightning, and it looked at Xiaohua fiercely. Xiaohua's face was innocent. He shrugged his huge shoulders and said with a smile, "The rock sage is well aware that this matter was stirred up by the demon clan of the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. It has nothing to do with this, Xiao. If anything happens to the rock sage, I'll send the demon monarch of the sky concealing ridge to accompany you. I won't let you be too lonely in the afterlife." Haha. The horror on the golden-winged rock's face suddenly disappeared, and it laughed heartily. A mere grand ascension stage human dares to boast so shamelessly? You think you can do anything to me with these puny spiritual fire of yours? As it spoke, the four-colored spiritual fire began to burn brightly, completely beyond Xiao Hua's control. Not good. How could Xiao Hua not know that the golden-winged rock had already come up with a countermeasure? The four-colored spiritual fire was extremely strange, and even Xiao Hua himself didn't know how to deal with it. He didn't think that the golden-winged rock would be able to break free. Now that the soaring dragon scissors had failed, Xiao Hua could only use the demonic saber slaughter. A ferocious light flashed through Xiao Hua's eyes as he raised his left arm slightly, and a layer of crimson light emerged from his left hand. It was also at this moment that the golden-winged rock let loose a mournful cry. Within the four-colored spiritual fire, the golden-winged rock suddenly disappeared, and its entire demonic body transformed into a layer of crimson light. The crimson light surged like demonic blood and rapidly expanded, instantly creating a gap in the four-colored spiritual fire. Then, without waiting for Xiao Hua to take any action, a loud bang resounded, and a pillar of blood-colored brilliance soared into the sky. It was no less than 30,000 meters high. Furthermore, there were crimson threads seeping through the gaps between the four-colored spiritual fire. This is... Xiao Hua was completely dumbstruck as he stared at the pillar of crimson light with a perplexed expression. However, several breaths later, another bird cry rang out, and this cry was filled with joy and relief. Following this cry, a crimson projection that was only 1,000 feet in size appeared at the top of the pillar of crimson light. As soon as this projection appeared, an exceptionally clear star mark appeared within it. On top of the star mark, the creases of the mountain range and the fine traces of the river could be clearly seen. Swoosh! Xiao Hua's gaze had just landed on the star mark when it immediately emitted a resplendent radiance. The radiance not only covered the tyrannical illusory figure, but also illuminated the space within a radius of 10,000 miles. At the same time, in the endless starry sky, there was also a star that emitted starlight, covering a large area of the starry sky. Boom! Another deafening roar resounded, and the entire night sky seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Pillars of starlight and moonlight filled the night sky, which were filled with a primordial aura, poured down like a torrential river, ignoring space and instantly enveloping a radius of 10,000 miles. Along with this pillar of starlight and moonlight, there was also a heaven and earth restriction that enveloped an area of several thousand li. Not to mention that the four-colored spiritual fire was instantly extinguished, not to mention that Xiao Hua was imprisoned by this heaven and earth restriction. He couldn't even move. Even the thoughts in his mind had slowed down. Nirvana rebirth? Xiao Hua was dumbfounded. Xiao Hua was restricted by the heaven and earth phenomenon, and Wen Chu the flying feather-void beast, Daoist Wu, and the five-colored sea god shell were also affected by this phenomenon. Although they didn't suffer as much as Xiao Hua, they couldn't use their abilities smoothly, and the battle between them was also stopped. In particular, the heaven and earth pagoda suppression collapsed under this heaven and earth phenomenon, and Daoist Wu's spatial restriction also collapsed and could no longer be perfected. Chapter 4385. Looking at the moonlight tide falling and rushing into the star mark, the star mark rapidly expanded. Along with the expansion of the star mark was the valiant will of the golden-winged rock. That will was rising steadily. In just a few breaths of time, a star several hundred miles in size was already in sight, and that will had reached a terrifying level once again. Damn it! Xiao Hua urged his magic power with all his strength, and the mysterious dark cloud also urged his soul technique, trying his best to resist the invasion of this will. He understood that if he was invaded by this will, not only would he be timid when he saw the golden-winged rock in the future, he would not dare to fight. Even his own Dao realm would be damaged. Once the stars were formed, they began to slowly rotate in the sky. With each rotation, the starlight tide would become a little thicker. After 365 revolutions, the starlight tide was like a huge stone pillar that ran through the stars in the sky and the stars on the ground. Another clear sound rang out, and the rotation of the star came to an abrupt stop. At the same time, the pillar of light from the moon and stars scattered, and all the phenomena in the world immediately fell into the star. Even all the shackles and wills disappeared like streams returning to their origin. Just as Xiaohua's thoughts were able to move nimbly, ka, the star let out an obscure sound. This sound sounded very simple, but when it fell into Xiaohua's ears, it was as if the world was collapsing. Xiaohua almost reached out his hands to cover his ears. It was also with this sound that the planet collapsed towards the center. A transparent, golden-winged rock made of gold flew out of the planet once again. Damn it! Just as the golden-winged rock flew out, a solid golden light shot out from his eyes and landed directly on Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua cursed, "What's going on? Haven't I always been the one to break through in life and death situations? How can it fall on this guy's head today?" As he spoke, Xiaohua didn't hesitate at all. The true essence within his body was activated without any regard for his life, and the thunderclap ninth heaven was displayed. Xiaohua's entire body almost turned transparent, and like a bolt of lightning, he charged towards the horizon. Haha! Seeing Xiaohua's unparalleled thunder escape technique, the golden-winged rock did not put it in his eyes at all. He laughed and said, "Since that's the case, why are you still running? Between heaven and earth, where can you escape to?" As it spoke, the golden-winged rock spread its wings, and the space nearby trembled. The golden-winged rock did not seem to move at all, but the space suddenly folded like layers of mountains. By the time the golden-winged great rock moved, all the distance between them had been shaken off. Xiaohua's lightning-like flowing light was also caught in the middle. The golden-winged rock's sharp claws, which seemed to be made of gold, stretched out slightly. Those sharp claws immediately pierced through the void and landed on Xiaohua's head. The wind under the sharp claws tore through the void, and Xiaohua's golden body flickered rapidly under this wind. So fast! This was Xiaohua's first time encountering an opponent that was comparable to his lightning evasion technique. While he was astonished, he slapped his own head. Boom! A large hand emerged from the top of his head and collided with the golden-winged rock's sharp claws. Amidst the loud explosion, the golden-winged rock's body was sent tumbling. After Xiaohua's hand was shattered, his entire body fell to the ground again. Damn it! Xiaohua's figure fell. Seeing the golden-winged rock attack again, he pondered in his heart, this golden-winged rock is the first great saint of the demon race, and can be said to be the most powerful demon race in the 3 continents. This Xiao was originally not his opponent. Just now he borrowed this Xiao's hand to be reborn. I'm afraid he has already passed the last bottleneck and reached the peak of the 9th level of origin energy. He might have already reached the edge of breaking through the void. This kind of expert, how can this Xiao be his opponent? Even if I use the devil blade murder, I'm afraid I can't really kill him. On the contrary, it will cause unnecessary trouble. Hee. Thinking of this, Xiaohua sneered. Seeing the golden-winged rock's figure very strangely appear in front of him again, and those sharp claws once again stretched out into the void, pride grew in his heart. Even if I don't use the devil blade murder, could it be that this Xiao can't kill you? Fellow Taoist, please come out. Xiaohua shook the Kunlun mirror, and the celestial roared and flew out from the space. The celestial rushed out, and without saying anything, he waved his fist to meet the golden-winged rock's sharp claws. Boom, boom, boom. The celestial's fist was tempered by 6 kinds of origin energy, and was incomparably hard, comparable to the golden-winged rock's golden claws. In the midst of the rumbling, the golden-winged rock's sharp claws flickered with golden light, and the celestial's fist also flickered several times. Fellow Taoists, please. Since he released the celestial, Xiaohua might as well go all the way, and shook the Kunlun mirror again. Boom, boom, boom. 18 rays of brilliance appeared from the Kunlun mirror at the same time, and 18 8th-level scattered nascent souls flew out at the same time. Each scattered nascent soul rushed out, and the entire world would shake violently. Countless amounts of heaven and earth's origin energy didn't need to be activated by any spells, and formed countless hurricanes that fell on the bodies of these scattered nascent souls. Hiss! The golden-winged rock sucked in a breath of cold air as if he had a toothache. His sword-like eyes couldn't help but become blurred again. However, that blurred gaze fell on the Kunlun mirror in Xiaohua's hand. He really couldn't imagine how many experts there were in the legendary Kunlun mirror. The legendary Kunlun paradise. He could ignore Xiaohua's Mahayana cultivation base. He could also ignore Wenchu's Wenchu realm. He could also ignore Taoist Wu's 9th-level origin energy. However, he couldn't ignore the strength of the celestial and the 18 8th-level scattered nascent souls that just appeared. The golden-winged rock was very clear in his heart that his strength surpassed Xiao Hua's. With the help of Xiao Hua's 4-colored spirit fire, he completely quenched the impurities in his body and recondensed his body with the power of the stars. His strength surpassed Xiao Hua's. Even if Xiao Hua, the celestial, and 5/8 tribulation scattered nascent souls, he could still kill them. However, what he was facing now wasn't 5/8 tribulation scattered nascent souls, but 18/8 tribulation scattered nascent souls, which was 18 Xiao Hus. Even if the golden-winged rock was only one step away from breaking through the void, how could it be the opponent of so many 9th-level origin energy cultivators? Needless to say, just as the golden-winged rock was thinking, the 18 8th-level scattered nascent souls had already spread out, and each of them made the exact same gestures at the same time. Boom! Just with the same sound, 18 thunder hands of the same power grabbed at the golden-winged rock from 18 directions. Not good. The golden-winged rock was slightly startled, and he flapped his wings rapidly. Moreover, he spat out a thick beam of starlight from his mouth, wanting to shatter these big hands. Boom boom boom. The wings hit 2 big hands, and the thick beam of starlight hit 3 big hands, and the remaining 13 big hands almost fell on the golden-winged rock's body at the same time. The golden-winged rock's demon body immediately emitted a soaring demon light. This demon light was like a raging fire, blocking the big hands. However, at the same time that several big hands were annihilated, one big hand actually fell on the golden-winged rock's body. Gotcha! The lightning was no less powerful than before. At the same time that the demon light was destroyed, the golden demon body that the golden-winged rock had just condensed began to melt under the impact of the lightning. Damn it! The golden-winged rock's heart tightened, and he was just about to counterattack. Boom! At this moment the void shattered, and the celestial flew out of the void in an extremely strange manner. Those 2 fists quickly hit the golden-winged rock's abdomen, and in the roar 2 huge deep holes appeared in his abdomen. The golden-winged rock was furious. With a long cry, he spat out a golden brilliance from his mouth and hit the celestial. Swish! This brilliance was so powerful that where the brilliance fell, the celestial's flesh and Taoist robes all melted, leaving only a craggy white bone. It looked very horrifying. This white bone even somersaulted a dozen times in the air under the impact and fell in mid-air. Seeing that the celestial had fallen, countless chi of heaven and earth surged, and the flesh and blood grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. The golden-winged rock flapped his wings, and the pillar of light that could topple a mountain was about to fall, wanting to take the opportunity to kill the celestial. However, without waiting for the golden-winged rock's wings to fall, a huge fist suddenly appeared from the void. Bang! It smashed on his head. The golden-winged rock's eyes swayed, and Xiao Hua's figure actually swayed into 2 in the air. The golden-winged rock was furious. Who hadn't seen bullies before, but bullies like this were really rare. The golden-winged rock let out a long cry, and the power of the stars and moon rushed out again. The entire demon body instantly turned into the shape of a star, and at the same time the star suddenly shook, and the space several miles to the left instantly collapsed, and this collapse spread over 1,000 miles. Wherever this collapse passed, all living things were destroyed. The 18 scattered nascent souls sneered, and their hands formed seals at the same time. 18 lightning balls covered the space around the scattered nascent souls, and no matter how the demon light swept past, it couldn't disperse the lightning. The scattered nascent souls avoided this disaster, not to mention the celestial and Xiao Hua. They each activated their domains, and although their domains were broken and couldn't resist the golden-winged rock's spatial collapse, their bodies weren't injured at all. Seeing that the golden-winged rock was so valiant, Xiao Hua was also secretly shocked. Damn it, if I didn't have so many methods, I'm afraid I would have been killed by this guy as soon as I came up. So far I've dealt with every move, but I don't know what other secret techniques this great demon saint has. As the saying goes, what you worry about will come true. Just as Xiao Hua was pondering, the golden-winged Great Peng's body once again flickered intensely. Countless pillars of starlight and moonlight descended. Boom, boom, boom. With 3 consecutive booms, 3 identical golden-winged great pungs appeared within the pillars of starlight and moonlight. Chapter 4386. Is this the demon race's doppelganger technique? Xiaohua scanned with his divine sense and saw that these 3 golden-winged rocks were exactly the same in terms of aura, strength, and pressure. He couldn't help but be dumbstruck. The 3 golden-winged rocks raised their heads and let out a long cry. They each urged their wings to separately pounce on the scattered nascent soul, Celestial, and Xiaohua. Go! Xiaohua smiled coldly. With a wave of his hand, the celestial skeleton fell into the air. That celestial had long sensed it. His body and mind swayed, and he fell into the skeleton. Boom! A fierce flame instantly emerged from the celestial skeleton and covered the golden-winged rocks pouncing over. The golden-winged rocks cried out in surprise, and their demon body instinctively retreated. Gotcha! At this moment, the laws of heaven and earth fell into the skeleton, and the aura of the skeleton was greatly reduced. However, even so, the golden-winged rock's doppelganger still didn't dare to rashly approach. The golden-winged rocks didn't enter, but that didn't mean that the celestial wouldn't enter. The celestial waved his hand and took the essence from Xiaohua's body. His body rapidly expanded, and then the 3 mouths spat out 3 colored brilliance, trapping the golden-winged rocks. And then the celestial waved his 6 arms and pounced on the golden-winged rocks. Looking at the celestial's fierceness, anyone would think that he was the demon race's first great sage. Having his essence extracted by the celestial skeleton, Xiaohua couldn't move for a while. Seeing that the other 18 scattered nascent souls had surrounded the golden-winged rock's doppelganger, Xiaohua raised his hand again. The Kunlun mirror vibrated without any light, and another 18 8th-rank scattered nascent souls rushed out, once again surrounding the golden-winged rock's doppelganger. Damn it, you can't play like this, right? The golden-winged rocks almost collapsed. How many 9th-rank essence power Mahayana cultivators do you have in your Kunlun mirror? Kill. Xiaohua looked coldly at the golden-winged rocks. He simply waved his hand and acted like a shopkeeper, instructing the 36 8th tribulation scattered nascent souls. Kill. The group of scattered nascent soul cultivators roared at the same time. The primordial chi of heaven and earth within 1,000 miles frantically surged into their bodies. As their hands formed seals, countless dragon-like thunderbolts were born in the void. Previously, when the golden-winged Great Pung was attacked by 18 scattered nascent souls, he was shocked at first and did not have time to observe carefully. Now that 36 scattered nascent souls were channeling their mana at the same time, the golden-winged Great Pung immediately saw that these scattered nascent souls were different from real human cultivators. He almost cried out involuntarily, "No, this is the nascent soul spirit body." After saying that, greed appeared in the eyes of the golden-winged Great Pung bird. Almost without thinking, it spread its wings. Boom! Facing the 2 clones of the scattered nascent soul, the star marks on its wings suddenly emitted a strange aura of desolation. Then the wings, heads, and tails of the 2 golden-winged Great Pung birds didn't have any special changes. Their demonic bodies slowly showed the shape of stars again. With the appearance of the 2 stars, the aura of desolation became more and more powerful. The area within 100 miles of the 2 stars began to distort and collapse. A power of swallowing space rushed toward the group of scattered nascent souls like a ferocious ancient fierce beast. The strange phenomenon of the golden-winged Great Pung bird's nirvana and rebirth shook Wenchu's heaven and earth pagoda. The imprisonment that was originally suppressing the flying feather and Ikong beast was broken at once. The flying feather and Ikong beast shook its body and wanted to escape into the void without hesitation. Unfortunately, at this time, the void had been imprisoned by the golden-winged Great Pung bird. Even as strong as the flying feather and Ikong beast was, it could not enter. However, when it sensed the pressure around its body and Wenchu's figure that could not move, the flying feather and Ikong beast was relieved. On one hand, it was always paying attention to the changes in the space imprisonment. On the other hand, it looked at the star phenomenon in the distance. The flying feather and Ikong beast was confident that it could escape into the void with its magic skills at the moment when the space changed, leaving no chance for Wenchu. The phenomenon of the golden-winged Great Pung bird's rebirth was truly astonishing. Although the flying feather and Ikong beast was the third great saint of the demonic clan, it could not help but admire it. A great saint was a demonic clan great saint who had obtained the recognition of the stars and could engrave star marks on their bodies. With these star marks, a demonic clan great saint would have an endless supply of the power of the stars and moon to use at any time. At the same time, because of these star marks, a demonic clan great saint could comprehend more of the power of the stars than an ordinary member of the void-swallowing demonic clan. They had more opportunities and could use the star marks to escape when breaking through the void. Even so, among the 6 demonic clan great saints, there might not even be one who could truly break through the void to reach a higher realm. The flying feather and Ikong beast knew that this was the so-called opportunity. Sometimes the flying feather and Ikong beast envied the brains of humans. They could express illusory things in beautiful words. Opportunity was one of them. No one knew how to break through the void. Those who could break through the void directly went to a higher realm and did not leave behind any more information. However, there was one thing that all demonic clan great saints and void-swallowing demonic clan great saints knew, and that was power. Only when one was so powerful that the 3 continents could not contain them would they be able to open up passageways to higher realms in the void. But just how powerful was one? There was a lot more to it than that. The flying feather and Ikong beast didn't know just how powerful he had to be able to break through the void, but he knew that there was no clear passageway in the void. Only when a passageway to a higher realm demonic clan great saint could there be a direction in the void. This was the conclusion that he had reached after searching through the void countless times. Why was the flying feather and Ikong beast searching for this illusory spatial passageway? The reason was very simple. His power had reached a certain bottleneck, and after tens of thousands of years, he was unable to progress any further. As such, he had no choice but to find another way to find the legendary spatial passageway. At the same time, the flying feather and Ikong beast also knew that it wasn't just him. All 6 great saints of the Thousand Demon Holy Realm were in the same situation. Their power had reached a bottleneck that was difficult to break through, and without an opportunity, they would most likely never be able to break through the void. However, what surprised him was that the golden-winged Great Pung truly lived up to its reputation as the most powerful being of the demonic clan. It was able to break through its bottleneck while battling a human Grand Ascension stage being. The flying feather and Ikong beast didn't know what kind of secret technique the golden-winged Great Pung had used, but seeing as the golden-winged Great Peng's entire body had been reconstructed by the power of the stars, the flying feather and Ikong beast knew that it wouldn't be long before the golden-winged Great Pung would be able to sense the passageway to break through the void. Holy fuck! Seeing as the golden-winged Great Pung had taken shape, the flying feather and Ikong beast turned to Wen Chu, who was also accumulating power in the distance, and he couldn't help but feel a burning desire in his heart. How about I give it a try as well? At this moment, the restriction dissipated like the tide. Boom boom boom. Before the flying feather and Ikong beast had a chance to do anything else, a series of rumbling booms rang out from close to 500 kilometers to the left. Wen Chu waved a hand, and the 9 states cauldrons flew into the air amidst surging auspicious clouds. As soon as the 9 states cauldrons appeared, 9 colored light immediately enveloped an area of over 500 kilometers, and streams of human fortune flowed through the night sky like rivers. The 9 states cauldrons were like the 9 states of the hidden immortal continent, firmly trapping the flying feather and Ikong beast within. The flying feather void beast was greatly alarmed. Wherever his gaze and Yuan sense reached, countless mountains, rivers, cities, city walls, and little rocks were born from this multicolored light. It was a little too much for his eyes to take in. Wave after wave of vast chi pillars emerged from all directions and crazily surged over, completely sealing off the surroundings. Damn it! The flying feather and Ikong beast didn't know what the 9 states cauldrons were, but he knew that they were definitely the imperial tools of a Confucian cultivator. Wen Chu had no intention of fighting him head-on. He only wanted to use the imperial tool to suppress him, so how could he possibly break through during a battle with Wen Chu? The flying feather and Ikong beast cursed angrily, and his figure flickered rapidly. The nearby void was like a door to the flying feather and Ikong beast, and it immediately opened up. Unfortunately, before the flying feather and Ikong beast could escape into the void, he saw countless streams of vast chi gushing out from the void. This vast chi had already condensed into the shape of inscriptions, and the inscriptions gave birth to the chanting of saints, blocking his way forward. The flying feather and Kong beast snorted coldly, and his slightly stubby forelimb stretched forward. Whoosh! All the inscriptions were torn apart, and the flying feather and Kong beast ignored the impact of the inscriptions breaking and forced his way into the void. Boom! At this moment, another huge roar came from the top of the flying feather and Kong beast's head. And then, an aura similar to the majesty of heaven and earth swept over madly. This aura was so perfectly combined with the aura of the human race in the 9 states cauldrons. Not only did it imprison the space within a radius of thousands of kilometers, but the void that the flying feather and Kong beast was about to squeeze into suddenly became as solid as a mountain rock. Not to mention the flying feather and Kong beast wanting to force his way in, it was difficult for him to squeeze out at this time. This is the auspicious artifact of the human race. The flying feather and Kong beast suddenly came to his senses and shouted, Where did you get this thing? The essence of the Heaven and Earth Pagoda was a Taoist spiritual treasure, and it represented the will of heaven and earth. The 9 states cauldrons were the artifact of the human race, and it represented the fate and will of the human race. The 3 elements of heaven, earth, and man fell together, which was the harmony advocated by the human race's Confucian cultivators. Harmony represented the origin, and in this origin, how could the flying feather and Kong beast escape? How could Wen Chu pay attention to the flying feather and Kong beast's question? He opened his mouth and spat out the 5-colored innate qi, which turned into thousands of pearls outside the 9 states cauldrons and spread out in all directions. As soon as the 5-colored pearls fell on the 9 states cauldrons, the thousands of inscriptions in the cauldrons immediately twisted and began to combine with each other. In an instant, layers of mountains of text appeared, and with a rumbling sound, they suppressed the flying feather and Kong beast. Roar! Seeing that the mountains of text were about to be formed, the flying feather and Kong beast gritted his teeth and raised his head to roar. A layer of blood-red shadow appeared outside his monster body, and at the same time, the star engraved on his back shone brightly. A blood-red star, like a natural demon star, rapidly expanded. As soon as the star and moon appeared, the mountains of text immediately collapsed. With another rumbling sound, the blood-red shadow of the flying feather and Kong beast slammed into the 9 states cauldrons. Pung! A wave of air rose into the sky, and the 9 states grand array was smashed open. In particular, the flying feather and Kong beast also collided with the cauldrons. His body shook, and 2 identical blood-red stars appeared and flew to the left and right at the same time. The 9 states grand array was immediately torn apart. Chapter 4387. The flying feather void beast let out a cold snort. 2 blood-red claws grew out of the blood-red star, and they reached out for Wen Chu's head from several hundred miles away. Wen Chu was shocked. He raised his hand and slashed. Swoosh! Where the sword light fell, the blood-red claws were like nothingness and did not receive any damage at all. It was also at this moment that the blood-red claws fell on Wen Chu's head. Strangely, the blood-red claws did not fall, but produced a great suction force out of thin air. However, when the suction force fell on Wen Chu's body, it did not produce any effect. Ah! The flying feather void beast turned pale with fright. You are not human? Huh! Not to mention the flying feather void beast. Even Wen Chu was puzzled. He hurriedly urged his true qi to check his body, but there was nothing wrong. At this time Wen Chu heard the flying feather void beast's words and looked at its blood-red claws. He suddenly understood. The flying feather void beast was not only born with spatial magical powers, but also knew the power of bloodline. These claws must be to grab the bloodline out of his body. Unfortunately, Wen Chu was Xiaohua's doppelganger. Although Wen Chu still cultivated to the 9th level of essence force, he was not a complete human. In particular, Wen Chu's essence was different from Xiaohua's. His essence was completely obtained from the heavenly demon, which was the essence of the upper realm. Even if Wen Chu's bloodline existed, how could the flying feather void beast extract it? Ha ha ha! Wen Chu laughed and raised his hand to point at the Heaven and Earth Pagoda. Boom! The Heaven and Earth Pagoda roared again and fiercely pressed down. The torn 9 provinces' great array began to rapidly recover. Damn it! The flying feather void beast didn't understand why its innate ability didn't work, but at this point, it was useless to think too much. With a flap of its wings, it suddenly pounced toward the gap of the 9 regions grand array. The sharp claws of its forelimbs slashed out of thin air and landed on the gap that was invisible to the naked eye. Open! The flying feather and Ikong beast roared, and the formation was instantly torn apart. The power of the stars around the flying feather and Ikong beast surged, and its body grew from hundreds of kilometers to thousands of meters in just a few breaths. Swoosh! There was a flash of light, and the flying feather and Ikong beast broke free from the formation. Damn it! As it flew out of the formation, the flying feather and Ikong beast's face turned red. He didn't dare to imagine that if the other demon clans knew that he had transformed and escaped from the 9 regions grand array, where would he put his face as the 3rd great saint of the demon clan? Roar! The flying feather and Ikong beast roared, and its monster body grew wildly. Just as it was about to pull itself together and fight with Wenchu again, a dazzling light curtain emerged from the place where the golden-winged rock and Xiao Hua were fighting. The flying feather and Ikong beast raised its eyes, and when it saw everything inside the light curtain, it was immediately stunned on the spot. The rebirth of the golden-winged rock also shattered the power of space of the great god Dijiang transformed by Taoist witch. The 5-colored sea god shell, like the flying feather and Ikong beast, saw the opportunity of the golden-winged rock, and its thoughts were the same as the flying feather and Ikong beasts. However, it also understood that its strength couldn't be compared to the flying feather and Ikong beast, and even more so, the golden-winged rock. Its bottleneck was far from being broken through. Moreover, it also understood that Bai Qingyu and the Fortune Gate were like fire and water, and it was likely that it was time for it to fight to the death with Taoist witch. Seeing that the shackles of the golden-winged rock's rebirth had disappeared, Taoist witch's space shackles had yet to fully form. The 5-colored sea god shell flashed with a 5-colored halo, and the entire space rumbled as it pounced towards Taoist witch. This wasn't a big deal, and Taoist witch's space shackles were instantly shattered. Moreover, before the 5-colored sea god shell's figure arrived, the suffocating airwaves had already surged over and drowned Taoist witch. Taoist witch didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw that the 5-colored sea god shell had given up on all its abilities and was going all out with its main body. He was proficient in soul techniques, but he didn't cultivate his body, so how could he be a match for the 5-colored sea god shell? Needless to say, the 5-colored sea god shell's 5-colored demonic light was powerful, and it had already corroded all the origin energy within 1,000 miles. Even the light and shadows in the space were distorted to an extreme degree. I'm afraid only a heavenly being can fight against this fellow. Taoist witch hurriedly spread out his 4 wings, and his figure nimbly dodged the attack of the 5-colored sea god shell. At the same time, Taoist witch's sharp claws activated the power of space again in an attempt to confine the 5-colored sea god shell. Unfortunately, the power of space couldn't take shape under the attack of the 5-colored sea god shell. Seeing the 5-colored sea god shell flying towards him again, Taoist witch had no choice but to dodge it again. When the 5-colored sea god shell flew past him, the green light around Taoist witch shone brightly again, and the green seal text flowed again. In just a moment, the figure of Hutu god with a human body, a snake tail and 7 hands appeared again. Facing the powerful shell of the 5-colored sea god shell, Taoist witch waved his 7 hands at the same time, and countless gods and ghosts screamed. The green seal text flashed in the air, and then a reddish-yellow land thousands of miles in size blocked the 5-colored sea god shell's head. Although the land was thick and the green seal text power was unpredictable, under the buzzing and rapid rotation of the 5-colored sea god shell, the reddish-yellow land was cracked by the impact of the 5-colored sea god shell. Pillars of earth rose into the sky, and in a few seconds the land was shattered. Even Taoist witch's figure was almost hit by the 5-colored sea god shell. Seeing a wound on his back, Taoist witch didn't dare to take the risk. He immediately turned into the figure of Dijiang and flapped his wings to dodge the 5-colored sea god shell. In this way, Taoist witch and the 5-colored sea god shell were in a slightly awkward situation. Taoist witch didn't dare to confront the 5-colored sea god shell directly. Seeing the 5-colored sea god shell rushing over, he could only dodge. After the 5-colored sea god shell flew away, Taoist witch chased after it and wanted to attack again. However, when the attack failed and the five-colored sea god shell turned around again, Taoists which could only dodge again. The two ninth-level masters of the three continents could only be in a stalemate here. Everyone could leave the battle at any time, but no one could leave for the time being. When the five-colored sea god seashell had an idea and was about to use another method, the same dazzling light curtain appeared from where the golden-winged rock and Xiao Hua were fighting. The five-colored sea god seashell saw everything inside the light curtain through the five-colored halo, and the rampaging figure suddenly stopped in midair. An extremely incredulous voice sounded from the seashell. The seventh great saint? When the golden-winged rock saw that the 36 scattered nascent soul cultivators were all spiritual bodies, he couldn't help but be greedy. The star shape appeared, and the power of swallowing sky pounced on the scattered nascent soul cultivators like a ferocious ancient beast. Seeing the two stars, Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and thought for a while. The Kunlun mirror in his hand shook again, and he cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Taoist Feng Wu." In the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror, the Feng Wu spread his wings and flew out. Seeing the golden-winged rock's power of swallowing sky, he sneered. With a long cry, he spread his wings, and 7 huge light pillars soared into the night sky. These light pillars were so dazzling, like a sky-high light curtain, illuminating the surrounding thousands of miles. Then boom boom boom. A loud sound came from the bottom of the light pillars, and the Big Dipper stars floated out from the back of the Feng Wu. The Big Dipper stars in the night sky shone at the same time, filling the night sky like a string of pearls. 7 beams of starlight and moonlight filled with the aura of desolation descended and merged with the 7 beams of light. The Feng Wu's demon body expanded rapidly in front of the golden-winged rock's dumbfounded eyes. What was special was that as the demon body expanded, the Big Dipper stars also expanded, filling the space within 1,000 miles. The edges of each star were distorted, and the light and shadow were like ripples in a lake. The 7 powers of swallowing sky, which were not inferior to the golden-winged rocks, roared and pounced on the golden-winged rock's power of swallowing sky. You are the 7th great saint? The golden-winged rock also looked at the Feng Wu in disbelief and exclaimed, "Why are you with the Grand Ascension stage human?" At this point, the golden-winged rock suddenly realized something. He looked at the Kunlun mirror in Xiao Hua's hand and shouted, "You became a great saint in the Kunlun wonderland? No wonder." While the golden-winged rock was still in shock, the Feng Wu's power of swallowing sky had already tangled with the golden-winged rock's power of swallowing sky. The space within 1,000 miles was filled with traces of pitch black. This pitch black was so dazzling in the night sky that it looked like countless fishes were swimming freely. In this pitch black surroundings, whether it was the vital energy of heaven and earth, the noble qi, or anything else, everything was being torn apart and sucked into the pitch black darkness. Damn it! The great golden-winged rock's eyes flashed with golden light as he glared at the proud Feng Wu. He knew in his heart that if they were to compete in terms of cultivation, the 7th great saint might not be his match. However, in terms of star power alone, even if he had 3 clones and 3 star marks, he was still no match for the 7-star great saint. After all, the essence of the power of swallowing sky was the power of the stars. The 7-star great saint 7-star great saint was not something a 1-star great saint like him could compare to. However, the golden-winged rock was in an awkward position. In the face of 36 scattered nascent souls, most of his abilities were useless. He could only use the power of swallowing sky from the demon race's great saint and his powerful physical body. However, his physical body was no match for the celestial. At this moment, the celestial had already beaten one of his clones to the point where he couldn't fight back at all. Not to mention, the celestial's 3 beams of light were very strange. The clone's essence, qi, and spirit couldn't resist at all. He could only dodge and evade, and it wouldn't be long before he was defeated or even killed by the celestial. He could only use the power of swallowing sky from the celestial. However, the power of swallowing sky was so weak in front of a 7-star great saint that it had become the golden-winged rock's fatal weakness. Chapter 4388. Of course, after the golden rock's humiliation and anger, fear appeared in his eyes. What could make the most powerful expert of the demon race so afraid? However, the number of pitch black holes increased, and the suction force became stronger. Not only were the light pillars of the stars and moon sucked into them, but even the mountains and other objects on the ground were also torn apart by the suction force. Everything was sucked into the hole. It was not that there were no battles between great saints of the demon race, but they had never been so intense. The faint darkness from before had now begun to spread, and the golden rock felt that the stars in his demon body were about to be torn apart. He did not dare to be careless and hurriedly withdrew his divine ability. The three doppelgangers merged into one. However, without Feng Wu's cooperation, the darkness did not decrease at all. In fact, it even seemed to be swarming toward the golden rock. Seventh Great Saint. The golden rock was frightened and hurriedly shouted, "You and I are both great saints of the demon race. We were born from the same root. Why are you so anxious to kill each other? Moreover, you are a great saint and have yet to enter the great sage hall. You don't know how powerful this star-swallowing power is. Look, if you and I don't stop, the entire Bai Qingyu or even the entire Thousand Demons Sacred Realm may be swallowed by this unknown thing." In fact, even before the golden-winged great rock spoke, Feng Wu had already sensed the power of the pitch-black darkness. He also wanted to stop, but this battle was started by the three demonic saints. How could he stop so easily? Now, hearing the golden-winged rock take the initiative to speak, Feng Wu took the opportunity to slowly retract the power of the stars and said in a loud voice, "Taoist Master Xiao is this saint's good friend. If you attack Taoist Master Xiao, you are attacking this saint. As long as Taoist Master Xiao does not agree to stop, this saint will not stop." Seeing that Feng Wu had withdrawn the star-swallowing power, the golden rock understood that Feng Wu wanted to stop. He smiled faintly and replied, "Seventh Great Saint, you are a great saint of the demon race. Why are you siding with outsiders? You are joining forces with a human Mahayana realm cultivator to attack a great saint of my race? I could not have become a great saint without perfected Zhao's help. This sage has already made a demon oath when I became a sage. As long as Taoist Master Xiao has any orders, this sage will not hesitate to die 10,000 times." Feng Wu naturally understood the tactic of giving a carrot after a stick. Therefore, Feng Wu replied very seriously, "Of course, this sage is the great sage of the demon clan. Naturally, I have to think of the demon clan. I came out now because I don't want things to get out of hand. If Rock Sage has the heart, this sage can naturally plead with Taoist Master Xiao." The golden-winged rock had just obtained benefits from Xiao Hua, and now it saw Feng Wu come out of Xiao Hua's Kunlun Wonderland. How could it not understand the difficulties that Feng Wu mentioned? He looked meaningfully at Feng Wu, then turned to Xiao Hua. At this moment, Xiao Hua was still standing with his hands in his sleeves, looking so innocent and harmless. The great golden-winged rock only pondered for a moment, and the stars grew dimmer. He smiled and said, "If you want to talk about help, I also received spiritual Master Zhao's help by chance. Based on this matter alone, this sage cannot be ruthless to Taoist Master Xiao. Don't you think so, Taoist Master Xiao?" Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes, looked at the golden-winged rock, and then looked at the collapsing earth and space. He nodded and said, "Rock Sage knows how to repay kindness. As expected of the number one expert of the demon clan, I am not as good as you. Fellow Taoist Feng Wu, thank you for your help. You are a trustworthy person. I will not force you to attack your fellow clansmen." "Thank you, Taoist Master Xiao." Feng Wu was overjoyed. He spread his wings, and the power of the stars was also about to be retracted. Unfortunately, the power of the two stars was already entangled in one place. How could Feng Wu retract it as he wished? Seeing that he could not retract the power of the stars, and the darkness increased, Feng Wu was anxious and shouted, "Fellow Taoist, help me." Seeing Feng Wu anxious, how could Xiao Hua not know that the situation was critical? He activated his magic power without hesitation. Hundreds of thunderbolts fell like horned dragons, trying to separate the power of the stars. Unfortunately, wherever the thunderbolts fell, the darkness would tear and devour them. There was no effect at all. At this moment, the celestial roared. 3 pillars of light soared into the sky and pounced straight down. These pillars of light were so dazzling that even the seemingly unparalleled darkness was temporarily covered up at this moment. "Fellow Taoist, don't be anxious. We will help you." Seeing that the celestial's light pillars could not stop them, Wenchu and Taoist which hurriedly abandoned the five-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast and flew over. The two of them activated their divine abilities, and the 5 Qi thunder and 3 corpse Yin thunder struck out at the same time. Good. Xiaohua was overjoyed. With the thought, the 9 heavens divine thunder also waved. The 3 types of thunderbolts landed in one place and condensed into a bright and transparent thunderbolt. This thunderbolt's transparency corresponded to the darkness in the sky. When it landed, it wiped out a small part of the darkness. Now that the darkness was reduced, the 2 entangled powers of the stars immediately loosened. The Fengwu hurriedly withdrew the power of the stars, and the brilliance of the stars that appeared dimmed a little. The golden-winged rock did not dare to be negligent and also withdrew the power of the stars. The brilliance of the stars that he manifested also dimmed a little. Just like this, Xiaohua, Wenchu, and Taoist which worked together to activate the thunderbolts. The golden-winged rock and the Fengwu tacitly withdrew the power of the stars bit by bit. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, all the darkness was wiped out. Phew! Not to mention Xiaohua. Even the golden-winged rock heaved a long sigh of relief. Behind him, the 5-colored sea god shell and the flying feather void beast also recovered their demon forms. They looked on with some trepidation. Their previous intention to injure Xiaohua had long been thrown out of the window. Furthermore, when the Fengwu withdrew the star patterns, her phoenix eyes flashed sharply and glanced at the 3 great sages. The 3 great sages of the demon clan were shocked and couldn't help but retreat slightly. After all, they were not facing a human Mahayana realm cultivator, but the Fengwu Taoist which Wenchu the celestial being and Xiaohua, who were all at the 9th level of essence Qi. In the sky beside Xiaohua, 36 scattered nascent soul cultivators who were also at the 9th level of essence Qi were also eyeing covetously. The 3 great sages of the demon clan couldn't help but feel bitter. They really didn't dare to believe that if Xiaohua harbored evil intentions, the 3 of them would not be able to escape unscathed. The Fengwu spread her wings and withdrew the star patterns, but didn't withdraw her demon form. Even the celestial being didn't withdraw the white bones. The golden-winged rock's heart tightened. He also didn't dare to withdraw his demon form and only raised his voice. In my opinion, with Taoist Zhao's ability, it would be as easy as flipping his hand if he wanted to wipe Bai Qingyu out of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Therefore, it's unlikely that Taoist Zhao would do as Bai Qingyu said and scheme so much. Bai Qingyu is just a misunderstanding. Xiaohua knew that this was the time to reconcile. Moreover, from what the golden-winged rock said, they didn't know about Bai Qingyu's scheme. He slightly frowned and nodded. That's right. Sage Rock is right. The so-called war between humans and demons is purely Bai Qingyu's nonsense. I'm not interested in such a war at all. If that's the case, Demon King Peng Jun of the Sky Concealing Ridge colluded with Demon King Bai Qingyu to offend a great sage friend of the demons. They intended to provoke a war between great sages. The Sky Concealing Ridge was just one of the many territories in Song Yuetian's eyes. It was really insignificant. In order to appease Xiaohua's anger, the golden-winged rock didn't mind abandoning this little pawn. After the golden-winged rock finished speaking, he looked at the 5-colored seashell and the flying feather void beast and asked, "What do the 2 great sages think?" The flying feather void beast smiled faintly. "Since it has nothing to do with the war, I won't interfere. Ni Quan of the ancient Bell Mountain also sent a false message to my Xian space forest. His crime is also punishable. If wiping out the ancient Bell Mountain can appease Taoist Zhao's anger, I think it's worth it. However, this was all caused by Bai Qingyu. What do you think, Sage Rock? I, Bai Qingyu, have already been killed by Taoist Zhao. Demon King Bai Qing has also been captured by him. What else can I say?" The 5-colored seashell's tone didn't have the gentleness of the other 2 great sages. Rather, it carried a kind of resentment. "However, I'm really confused. Why would Bai Qing provoke the humans for no reason? I've never seen Bai Qingyu's message and don't know what happened to her. Moreover, when she saw us just now, Bai Qing was actually twisting words and forcing logic." "Oh, I see." Hearing the 5-colored seashell's words, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel relieved. This was because he had only learned about Shui Mingzi's goal from Ao Shang, and the ancient Bell Mountain's goal from Shui Mingzi. He actually didn't know about Demon King Bai Qingyu's goal, or the Sky Concealing Ridge's goal. From the words of the 2 great sages, Xiaohua felt that the golden-winged rock shouldn't know about it, while the sky-concealing beast should know some inside information. However, the five-colored seashell, who should know the truth, actually said some inexplicable words, as if it didn't know anything. There could only be one truth. All of this was a scheme of the three demon kings, and it had nothing to do with the three great sages. Thinking of this, Xiaohua nodded slightly and said, "Sage Rock, you don't need to say more. I don't know the truth of this matter either. When I release the three demon kings, you'll know when you ask them. Moreover, I also want to know where the one suppressed by Qingyu went. If the great sages agree to my conditions, it's not impossible to turn hostility into friendship." Okay. The five-colored seashell also had some doubts and replied, "If Qing really offends you too much?" Boom! At this moment, under the ground that was previously torn apart by the darkness, a seven-colored shadow suddenly appeared. Another huge seven-colored seashell appeared in the shadow like the sky. Before the five-colored seashell finished speaking, it covered Xiaohua. Ah? Xiaohua was shocked. He activated his spiritual power and lightning surged out from the surface of his body. His whole body turned illusory and immediately teleported to the distance. The seven-colored shadow and the seven-colored seashell also appeared in a flash and disappeared into the void. Within 1,000 miles, except for Xiaohua's disappearance, everything was no different from a few breaths ago. Even the night wind that had just calmed down was still blowing leisurely. Who? Wen Chu and the others were shocked. Their divine senses swept over quickly, but it was only a moment before Feng Wu's face changed greatly, because he couldn't perceive any special changes within 1,000 miles. Moreover, their perception of Xiaohua's space had completely disappeared. Chapter 4389. Ancestor? The five-colored sea god seashell cried out in disbelief when he saw the huge seven-colored shell disappear in a flash and the human Grand Ascension stage cultivator who was talking to him a moment ago. Damn it! Hearing the five-colored sea god seashell's cry, the celestial being was enraged and was about to charge at the five-colored sea god seashell. Feng Wu hurriedly shouted, "Fellow celestial being, don't worry my ass." The celestial being shouted back, "Fellow Taoist Xiao is already gone. How can I not worry?" Buzz. Just then 36 bolts of lightning shot into the sky. The 36 scattered nascent souls all activated the power of lightning and spread out, surrounding the entire space. Boom boom boom. With 3 explosions, huge pillars of starlight and moonlight fell. The five-colored sea god shell, the flying feather void beast, and the golden-winged great pung were covered in fierce flames again. The situation that had just calmed down became tense again because of the appearance of the seven-colored shell and Xiaohua's disappearance. In particular, the expressions of the 3 great saints of the demon race changed again. The golden-winged great pung looked around warily, and the golden light in his eyes flickered slightly. He already understood that the ancestor was only interested in Xiaohua, and didn't put the celestial being, Feng Wu, and the others into the space. The 3 of them were still at a disadvantage. Moreover, the ancestor hadn't asked about the 1,000-demon sacred realm for a long time. Even if the demon race and the demon race were to fight, she wouldn't intervene. Therefore, he couldn't hope for the ancestor to intervene. However, if Xiaohua didn't appear and give the order, the celestial being and Feng Wu wouldn't let him go. He could only fight to the death today. The golden-winged great pung understood, so how could the flying feather void beast not understand? He also turned his eyes and looked at the Feng Wu, the celestial being, and the scattered nascent souls. Finally, his gaze fell on the Feng Wu. Ah, so it's the ancestor here. The golden-winged great pung sighed and looked at the five-colored sea god seashell. Only now do I understand why Qing was so bold. The five-colored sea god seashell understood the meaning of the song and put away his doubts. He smiled bitterly and said, "That's right. This saint truly did not expect that all of this was the ancestor's arrangement." Feng Wu understood what the 3 great saints of the demon race were thinking. He smiled coldly, looked at the five-colored seashell, and asked flatly, "Since this is the will of your ancestor, what is your decision?" There was no need for the five-colored sea god seashell to speak. The stars around the golden-winged great pung flashed as he said, "Since it's the ancestor's will, it's also the will of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. We won't disobey." See, When Chu heard and unconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air, he suddenly understood. That day, before Namo Maitreya Buddha achieved fruition in the Great Snow Mountain, the colorful shellfish demon once said that he had a backer. According to Samantabhadra Bodhisattva of Namo Maitreya, even Mahavakana Buddha was not willing to provoke his backer. Previously, whether it was Xiaohua or the other doppelgangers, they all thought that it was the great sage of the demon clan from the five-colored sea god shell. But in fact that was not the case at all. It was the seven-colored sea god shell that was much more powerful than the five-colored sea god shell. Alright. Feng Wu's eyes widened as he shouted, since that's the case, then I won't waste my breath on you. If Taoist Master Xiao can survive, then there's no need for any grievances between us. Everything from before can be forgotten. What if the human Grand Ascension stage cultivator can't survive? The five-colored sea god shell asked in a worried voice. When Chu smiled coldly and replied, then there's no need for you to return to the great holy palace. And for the next 100,000 years, there won't be a great sage in the thousand demons' sacred realm. How dare you? The golden-winged great Peng was furious and flapped his wings, about to activate the power of the stars again. Cough cough. The flying feather and Ikong coughed slightly and glanced at the golden-winged great Peng, then turned to Feng Wu with a smile and asked, I am the third great sage of the great holy palace, Flying Feather and Ikong. How should I address the seventh great sage? Feng Wu looked at the Flying Feather and Ikong for a long while before replying, I'm the heaven-defying lightning phoenix. Heaven-defying? The flying feather void beast was a little surprised. It then extended its sharp claws and gave a thumbs up like a human. It praised, as expected of the phoenix sage who has close ties with the human race. Even your name is so arrogant. This sage is impressed. I wouldn't dare. Feng Wu shook her head. I can't compare myself to Sage Anai, Sage Peng and Sage Bei. Haha. The flying feather and Ikong beast laughed and looked up at the stars in the distance. Who would have thought that 4 of the 7 great sages of the great holy palace would be gathered in this tiny Bai Qingyu? If the arcane pentaceratops, vermilion flame vermilion bird, and nether dragon spider come, then all 7 great sages are gathered. Feng Wu just listened quietly and didn't say anything. The flying feather void beast didn't seem to need Feng Wu to say anything. It continued, even though the Great Holy Hall originally had 6 saints, other than Saint Bei, the other 5 saints didn't have any foundation. According to what I know, before the other 5 great sages became great sages, they all received the favor of our ancestors. I see. Shock flashed through Feng Wu's eyes. The flying feather and Ikong beast's words were very clear. The ancestor of the rainbow shell wasn't just the ancestor of the 5-colored seashell, but also the ancestor of all the great sages of the great holy palace. Feng Wu and the others didn't think that there would be such a transcendent existence in the thousand demon sacred realm. She wasn't a great sage, but she was stronger than a great sage. Of course, she was someone that even the Vairocana revered one didn't want to provoke. If that's the case, when Chu's voice was as cold as ice, then fellow immortal Xiao is most likely dead? That's right. The golden-winged great Peng shouted. The human Grand Ascension stage is definitely no match for our ancestor. Very well. The celestial being laughed. Then we'll sacrifice you to fellow Taoist Xiao. Not necessarily, not necessarily. Before the golden-winged great Peng could speak, the 5-colored seashell hurriedly said, the ancestor hasn't asked about the thousand demon sacred realm for hundreds of thousands of years. There must be a reason for her to act today. Moreover, this matter must be related to Bai Qingyu. Nonsense. Taoist sorcerer was also a bit anxious. Isn't she the one who caused all of this? The problem is, the 5-colored seashell was very troubled. This sage doesn't know why our ancestor suddenly interfered with Bai Qingyu's matter. Moreover, she personally appeared in front of Bai Qingyu. Damn it, this sage doesn't know either. The golden-winged great Peng shouted. This sage only received a message from Tsang Yutian, who knew that this was all arranged by our ancestor. The 5-colored seashell released its origin will. After taking a look, it smiled bitterly. Bai Qingyu has been eliminated by the human race. Bai Qing and the other 2 demon kings have also been captured by Taoist Xiao. Who should we ask? Where's Sage Anai? Feng Wu turned to look at the flying feather and Ikong beast, whose figure flickered like a star in the night sky. The flying feather Enai Kong beast chuckled a bit awkwardly. This sage knows that Enai Quan wants to expand his power on the hidden immortal continent. He also reported that if this matter didn't involve the immortal palace, this sage wouldn't care at all. After all, they're suppressing a 5th-grade origin force human. As for Bai Qingyu and Sky Obscuring Ridge, they seem to be interrogating this human for 2 pieces of information. As for what information, Enai Quan doesn't know at all. Bai Qing and Peng Jun are tight-lipped. He can't get any information out of them at all. Information? What information? Wen Chu also looked at Feng Wu in bewilderment. After all, the 7-colored seashell incident happened before the doppelgangers regained consciousness. Xiao Hua didn't tell these doppelgangers at all. Taoist sorcerer nodded. No matter what information it is, since they're interrogating him, it must be what our ancestor wants. That's right. The 5-colored sea god seashell was rather perplexed as well. That's why I'm curious. Why are you insisting on interrogating this Grand Ascension Stage being? They don't seem to know each other. There's no way a human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator would want to know something that our ancestor has to know. Furthermore, from the fact that Bai Qingyu has been suppressing that human great sage's substitute for several hundred years, it seems that our ancestor values this information greatly. She doesn't dare to use any extreme methods at all costs. Taoist sorcerer the heavenly being Wen Chu and Feng Wu exchanged a glance. They were well aware that Xiao Hua most likely had more secrets than all of the secrets in the 3 continents. It was very likely that he really did know what their ancestor wanted to know. That's good too. The flying feather void beast smiled. Since our ancestor values this information greatly, she won't harm that human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator so easily. As long as the human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator tells her the information, he'll be able to escape safely. The golden-winged Great Peng nodded. Since our ancestor can't bear to harm that human Grand Ascension Stage cultivator and only suppressed him for several hundred years, at this point the golden-winged Great Peng subconsciously paused. That's right. Since the old ancestor allowed Bai Qingyu to suppress the little white dragon for several hundred years, how long would she be able to suppress Xiao Hua if he didn't speak up? Indeed, Sage Peng is right. Whoever started the trouble should end it. Wen Chu also waved a hand. Fellow immortals, surround the 3 great sages first. If fellow immortal Xiao doesn't come out, we'll wait here for another day. If fellow immortal Xiao doesn't come out for 10,000 years, we'll wait here for 10,000 years. Damn it. The golden-winged Great Peng knew that he had said something wrong, and he roared, humans, I only respect your close relationship with Phoenix Sage of the demon race, and I don't want to cause any trouble. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. Without waiting for the golden-winged Great Peng to finish speaking, rumble, the 36 scattered nascent souls formed hand seals in unison. Like the cries of 10,000 horses, thunder was born in the entire night sky, and similarly, it uniformly covered the space of 10,000 miles. Chapter 4390. Damn it! The flying feather void beast was very sensitive to spatial fluctuations, and he could already sense the order and solemnity of the lightning, and he couldn't help but curse. Why are these 36 Grand Ascension Stage human beings acting like a single person? How did they do it? In that case, even an ordinary spell would be amplified by close to 100 times the power of 36 Grand Ascension Stage beings at the same time. Even if I were to reach the pinnacle of power, I wouldn't be able to deal with them. It seemed that they were about to draw their swords again. Boom! Thousands of miles away, another 7-colored light flashed out from an unknown space like a rainbow. Xiao Hua could sense that something had happened again upon seeing this burst of rainbow light, as well as an aura that he was no match for. He immediately activated his magic power and teleported away without any hesitation. Xiao Hua heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the spatial light had already passed through the layers of space within a few breaths of time. However, before he could calm down, he saw that the distorted light and shadows were instantly covered by the 7-colored halo. Moreover, the space around Xiao Hua had clearly sunk. Crap! Xiao Hua was shocked. He hurriedly activated the lightning around him, and the power of his domain crazily expanded in all directions. His domain had only expanded by a few hundred miles when Xiaohua saw a seven-colored dome of heaven descend from the sky. At the same time, a vast seven-colored land also emerged from the ground, sealing him in a seven-colored space in an instant. However, the seven-colored space was unusually quiet. There was no chi of heaven and earth or great spirit. Only seven-colored light threads were floating leisurely all over the place. Xiaohua's spiritual sense couldn't extend very far, and as his gaze fell upon the threads of light, countless illusionary realms appeared, as if each of the threads of light was a small world of its own. Xiaohua's heart jolted upon seeing this, and lightning erupted all over his body as he flew toward a certain direction. Rumble! Lightning filled the entire sky. Xiaohua flew for a long while, but he was unable to see the edge of the rainbow light, and nothing around him had changed. Seeing this, Xiaohua simply stopped and waved his hand, wanting to take out the wishful staff. However, where Xiaohua's mind fell, there was no trace of anyone in the space behind his head. How is this possible? Xiaohua was shocked, and he hurriedly checked his surroundings, but there was no trace of space at all. Is this an illusion? Xiaohua immediately thought of his encounter with the vast freedom heavenly devil in the ruins. Immediately afterward, Xiaohua hurriedly pulled out a yin-yang bracelet and scanned it with his spiritual sense. As expected, this yin-yang bracelet couldn't be opened either. Damn it! Xiaohua cursed as he put the yin-yang bracelet away, then pulled out the tongue jiao shears. Previously he had used the tongue jiao shears to attack the golden rock, and didn't have time to put it away, but now he could use it. Shua! Xiaohua activated his magic power, and the soaring dragon scissors transformed into a dragon shape and swung in the air, immediately cutting the seven-colored light strands in half. Moreover, these light strands didn't instantly fuse, but instead slowly turned into two light strands and drifted down. Xiaohua frowned again and thought to himself, if this isn't an illusion, then this must be the location of a seal, but this seal is too powerful. No, it's not a seal, it should be a space similar to the five-colored sea god shell. It's the rainbow seashell. In this space, it must have isolated my space. Damn it, if that's really the case, then this rainbow seashell is rainbow. Oh, I understand now. The cause and effect is actually here. Thinking of this, Xiaohua's thoughts suddenly became clear. He knew a lot, and what Wen Chu could think of, he could also think of. He even thought of Fairy Jing and the jade eyes he gave her. If that's the case, then this rainbow seashell is the backer that the five-colored great demon of the Great Snow Mountain was talking about. It's a great sage among great sages that even Mahavairakana doesn't want to provoke. And he's the mastermind behind the suppression of Little White Dragon. As for the main culprit, it's the jade eyes I gave Fairy Jing. The rainbow seashell inside must have an extremely close relationship with this rainbow seashell, or else he wouldn't have been able to suppress Little White Dragon for 200 years. Poor Little White Dragon. Back then I didn't know that Fairy Jing was so heartless. When she saw that she couldn't have a deep relationship with me, she immediately drank the emotion for getting water. I didn't have time to get the jade eyes back, so I've implicated Little White Dragon. However, this rainbow seashell can actually change the god statue with a human body and a snake tail. It must be related to me, Shang Huaming. How can I just give it to someone else so casually? Of course, it's also possible that the rainbow conch and rainbow ocean shell are closely related to me. When he thought up to here, Xiaohua had a plan in his heart, and he stopped moving and looked around. There might be many cultivators like Xiaohua on the Dawn Rain continent and the three continents, but it was rare to see someone as affectionate as Xiaohua. Ever since Xiaohua recovered part of his memories and returned to the cultivation world from the Divine Land, he already knew that he was Zhang Xiaohua. However, he couldn't forget that Xiao Hongyue had adopted him in the care and concern of Gong Mingwei, Zhang Qingxiao, and Xiao Xianruwei, so he never changed his name. He even changed his Dharma name to Daoist Xiao to commemorate the time between Xiao Hongyue and Yellow Flower Ridge. Now that he saw a senior who might be related to Shang Huaming, how could Xiaohua not be serious? After Xiaohua looked around and saw no trace of him, he bowed and said, Shang Huaming's junior disciple greets senior? The seven-colored light that filled the sky instantly froze. In the distant horizon, a seven-colored full moon suddenly appeared, illuminating the entire space. However, there was no difference whether it shone brightly or not. Near Xiaohua there was nothing but emptiness and 7 colors, nothing else. The 7-colored full moon appeared in front of Xiaohua in a flash. When the brilliance faded, a beautiful woman appeared from the full moon. The woman was completely naked, and her skin was also 7-colored. The 7 colors flowed slowly on the mysterious lines of the woman. Other than an indescribable feeling, there was only holiness left. 2 extreme feelings appeared on her body at the same time. If any human saw this, they would be dumbfounded. They would be drowned in her beauty and suffocate. You are Shang Huaming's disciple? The woman's voice was like the sound of nature, and seemed to be more attractive than her beauty. What does Shang Huaming look like now? Although Xiaohua was respectful, he did not relax. He was still on guard. When he bowed, he had already seen the woman's physical appearance. However, he also understood that this woman was a demon. The so-called human form was just a piece of clothing in her eyes. In the eyes of the human race, etiquette, justice, integrity, and shame were the accessories on the clothes. This woman might like the beauty of the clothes, but how would she know if the accessories were good, pleasing to the eye, or even in accordance with the rules? Since the woman did not care about her physical appearance, Xiaohua naturally could not take it to heart. Appearance was emptiness, and emptiness was appearance. Xiaohua was not unaware of this. Hearing the woman ask about Shang Huaming, he hurriedly replied, "Senior, please no. This junior does not know if the Shang Huaming you speak of is the same as the Shang Huaming I speak of. However, this junior does not know much about Shang Huaming's current situation." The Shang Huaming I know is naturally not the Shang Huaming you know. The woman sighed. Her gaze seemed to be able to see through space. She said, "How many years has it been? How could there not be any changes?" "Yes, this junior understands." Xiaohua's heart trembled, and he hurriedly replied, "Since you know Shang Huaming, you should know my intentions, right?" The woman went straight to the point. Xiaohua nodded and said, "This junior roughly understands what senior is thinking, but I wonder if it is related to the jade eyes?" Hearing Xiaohua mention the jade eyes, the woman's figure could not help but tremble. Her 7-colored body dissipated like an illusion, and a few breaths later it reappeared. The 7 colors of the entire 7-colored space vibrated at the same time. Clearly, the woman was very excited, and this excitement could not be suppressed. The woman nodded. Her 7-colored eyes, which were like the deep sea, were suffused with incomparable splendor. She opened her mouth and said, "The 200 years of farce can finally end today. Are you the real Xiaohua?" "Yes, this junior." Xiaohua admitted. It was this junior who gave the jade eyes to Fairy Jing. The woman still nodded. Since she knew that Xiaohua was already in the space, the woman's expression calmed down. After a while she asked, "The image in the jade eyes, where did you see it?" "Senior, are you talking about the 7-colored conch?" Xiaohua saw that the woman did not point it out. It seemed that she still did not trust him, so he simply explained the matter. "Yes." The woman's voice clearly trembled again. Clearly, she was extremely concerned about the 7-colored conch. She did not hide this concern, and she was not even afraid of Xiaohua seeing through it. Xiaohua, of course, would not directly admit that the 7-colored conch was in his hands. He slightly smiled and said, "If senior has any questions, this junior will definitely answer them. However, if possible, can senior first tell me about the relationship between senior and the 7-colored conch?" The woman's tone was cold, and she indifferently replied, "Little guy, some things can be heard, and some things can't be heard. Senior is right." Xiaohua did not show any weakness and replied, "Some people can be trusted, and some people can't be trusted. This junior cannot casually leak the information about Senior Huaming to others." Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish speaking, the 7-colored silk covering the sky suddenly went crazy. The space within 100 li around Xiaohua suddenly contracted, and then all the 7-colored silk condensed into a tentacle-like thing that passed through the space and fell between Xiaohua's eyebrows. Gotcha! The domain around Xiaohua collapsed under the tentacle, and the 7-colored silk fiercely pounced over like a python. Chapter 4391. Rumble. Xiaohua didn't hold back. Green seal text appeared between his eyebrows. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled, protecting his body. The 7-colored light cracked under the lightning attack, unable to get within 100 miles of Xiao Hua. Damn it! The woman's voice sounded. The entire sky immediately darkened, as if a storm was about to come. On the other hand, Xiao Hua's expression didn't change. As he circulated his magic power, spiraling petals appeared between the lightning bolts. Wherever these petals passed, the collapsed space rapidly healed. It was only as he spoke that the space that had been destroyed by the woman was restored. Senior. Xiao Hua's voice sounded. On the 3 continents, the highest level of strength is the upper 9th level of origin energy. Since Senior's sealed space is on the 3 continents, it can't exceed this law. Moreover, the information about the 7-colored conch is probably only known by Junior in the entire world. Senior, please reconsider. Are you threatening me? The woman's voice was very sharp. Clearly, she was already somewhat angry. Then Xiao Hua saw that several hundred li away from him, a 7-colored brilliance flashed. Then 2 figures appeared in the brilliance. The woman coldly said, "Unfortunately, you don't have the qualifications to threaten me. Little White?" Seeing the human figure that looked exactly like him in the light, Xiao Hua finally understood. Little White Dragon was sucked into the space by this woman. No wonder he couldn't detect it. However, looking at the beautiful woman beside Little White Dragon whose belly was slightly bulging, Xiao Hua was confused. "Do you see? This is your substitute. He was suppressed under the fire pillar for you for more than 200 years. Although I don't know what your relationship with him is, seeing that not only do you look similar to him, even your aura and soul are similar. Haha, don't tell me that you don't know him." The woman coldly laughed and said. Xiao Hua didn't deny it. He nodded and said, "He's called Little White. He's a python that transformed into a dragon. He's Junior's brother in tribulation. Junior can't not recognize him." "That's right," the woman said with a smile. "Since you're his brother in tribulation, you should know why I took him out." Xiao Hua faintly smiled and said, "If it were someone else who said this Junior would probably compromise and lower his head for Little White's life. But when facing Senior, Junior doesn't think it's a good idea for Senior to threaten Junior with Xiao Bai's life." "Oh, why?" The young woman was surprised. Since Xiao Hua was willing to lead 200,000 Fortune Gate disciples to rescue the Little White Dragon, it was natural that he attached great importance to the Little White Dragon. Moreover, just a moment ago, Xiao Hua had already admitted that the Little White Dragon in his hand was his brother in tribulation. How could he possibly disregard the Little White Dragon's life? "It's simple," Xiao Hua replied. "This Junior's brother has an extremely good relationship with my Shang Huaming's Senior. It can be said that they have gone through life and death together. If Senior injures this Junior's brother, Junior doesn't know how Senior will explain it to Senior from Shang Huaming." Damn it! When the woman heard this, she couldn't help but fly into a rage. Light flashed, and the 2 figures within the light woke up. Darling Xiao, darling Xiao." The woman opened her eyes and looked around blankly. She exclaimed, Where is this? Your grandmother, how would I know where this is?" The Little White Dragon also looked around and cursed. "Wasn't this all arranged by you? How come you didn't know? This concubine was afraid that you would be killed by my father. That's why I saved you." The woman was naturally by Bo. She pulled the Little White Dragon's hand, and a demonic cloud appeared below her. She flew in a certain direction. The Little White Dragon seemed to be injured, so he didn't circulate his dragon chi and only flew with Bai Bo. Unfortunately, Bai Bo flew straight for a while, but her figure didn't change at all. Her voice sounded again, "That's not right, this doesn't seem to be me, Bai Qingyu. What an idiot." The Little White Dragon scolded. He struggled to move his body and looked around. His eyes were filled with illusions, so how could he distinguish the direction? He only casually pointed, and the 2 of them flew again. After flying for a while, the Little White Dragon asked, "You said that there are already many human cultivators around Bai Qingyu who came to save me?" "That's right, darling Xiao." Bai Bo nodded and said, "Bai Qingyu's front sent a message that there are several groups of cultivators coming to save you. However, their strength is too weak. At most, they are at the lower 5th grade essence force. They can't even compare to my demon general, so how could they save you?" "Your grandmother, Your father is so heartless. The little white dragon said fiercely. He's using me as bait. That's right. Baibo looked like a little bird that was dependent on a man. She said in a low voice, that day, I heard my father discussing with the Demon King of Shrouding Sky Ridge and the Demon King of Ancient Bell Mountain to kill you today to show his might. I was scared, so I mustered up my courage to steal you out. You didn't dare to make a move for more than 100 years. For no reason, why did you have the guts today? The little white dragon pinched Baibo's chest and said with a pout, weren't you in no danger in the past? Baibo laughed delicately and said, don't think I don't know your tricks. When you were refining that fire pillar, although you shouted fiercely, you were actually using that demon fire to cultivate. Although it was painful, it was useful for your cultivation. The little white dragon snorted in annoyance. Baibo panicked and said hurriedly, darling Xiao, I never told my father about this. None of them knew. And little white dragon answered casually, and Jadewave's face immediately turned for the better. She looked around and said, moreover, this concubine wants you to know that this concubine is devoted to you. Unlike that slut who betrayed you and even tricked you. Without waiting for Baibo to finish speaking, the little white dragon slapped Baibo's face and scolded, you're not allowed to slander others. How many times have I told you I don't know her at all? Humph, if you don't know her, how could she possibly give up her life to save you? Although Baibo felt wronged, her small mouth flattened. In the end, she still didn't cry and said stubbornly, I want you to see that I can also sacrifice everything for you. For you I can also. Alright, no need to say any more. The little white dragon touched Baibo's face lovingly and said, that woman and I don't know each other at all. The one she knows is the human race's Xiao Hua. Oh, are you still in pain? It doesn't hurt anymore. Baibo put her face on the little white dragon's hand and said in a low voice, that day, other than being jealous, I was also shocked. I didn't think that loving someone could actually love to that extent. So when I heard that you were in danger, I really couldn't help it. Besides, I can't let our child be born without a father, right? Ah? The little white dragon almost jumped up when he heard that. He cried out in surprise, what? Our child? Where is it? Where is it? Baibo stroked her stomach loftily and said with a smile, naturally it's in my stomach. Speaking up to here, Baibo glanced at the little white dragon and said coquettishly, you still have the cheek to say that. My servant girl also has your flesh and blood. Humph, if not for the sake of that flesh and blood, I would have killed her long ago. Damn it, is that true? The little white dragon looked at Baibo in disbelief and then carefully placed his hand on her stomach, touching it again and again. After a while, the little white dragon opened his mouth again and said, wife, there seems to be a mountain peak in front. Why don't you hide there first? Okay. When Baibo heard that the little white dragon was concerned about her, she was overjoyed and hurriedly agreed. However, she had just said one word when she came back to her senses and said anxiously, darling Xiao, I'm going. You, what are you going to do? Could it be that you're going to find that slut? Oh, don't worry. I've already made arrangements for her. After this period of time, I'll let her leave by Qingyu. Wife? The little white dragon reached out to touch Baibo's slightly bulging stomach and said word by word, your husband is a man. Previously, I didn't know that there were human cultivators coming to save your husband, so your husband escaped far away. But now your husband knows that they came to save your husband. How can your husband stay out of it? Your husband must return to Bai Qingyu and tell them that your husband has already escaped danger. I even have to tell them that your husband isn't the Xiao Hua they want to save. And maybe the real Xiao Hua is also among them. How can your husband let Xiao Hua go to his death? But Baibo grabbed the little white dragon's hand and cried, darling Xiao, if you go back, you definitely won't be able to return alive. I know. The little white dragon used his other hand to pat Baibo's cheek and said lovingly, but your husband is a man. A man should face life and death directly. He must not be a coward. Wife also doesn't wish for our flesh and blood to talk about today's matter after descending to the world. Tell him that your husband became a deserter, right? Let a group of human cultivators sacrifice themselves for your husband, right? Your wife would rather not tell him than tell him your heroic story on the day of your death. Bai Bo didn't let go of the little white dragon's arm and said with gritted teeth, "Your wife only wants to see you every day, regardless of whether you are a man or not. Your grandmother, why can't you make sense?" The little white dragon said exasperatedly, "Laozi doesn't only have you as a woman. Laozi is from the dragon race. Human race, demon race, sea race, and so on. There are plenty of women, no matter how many you have." The little white dragon was wrong. Bai Bo was from the demon race, not the human race. Why would she care about this? Bai Bo shouted, "I want you all. I won't let you go back." Boom! Just as Bai Bo was shouting, several soul strands came out from the little white dragon's glabella and landed on Bai Bo's forehead. Bai Bo closed her eyes and fainted. The little white dragon kissed Bai Bo's cheek tenderly and flew with her for a moment. Looking at his actions, it seemed like he hid her in the cave and then flew out himself. Of course, just as the little white dragon flew out, an illusion flashed in front of his eyes and he also lay down in the light. Chapter 4392. Xiao Hua was slightly shocked to see the 5th and 6th grade elemental energy dragons and shell elemental energy being toyed with by the woman. He looked at the woman. That woman said indifferently, "Do you see? If you don't agree, this brother of yours will die because of you. Do you want everyone who loves and cares about you to leave you one by one?" "Who is that woman?" Xiao Hua's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His eyes were already turning red as he looked at that woman and asked coldly, "Actually, you already know in your heart. Why are you still asking me?" That woman smiled coldly. Xiao Hua naturally had a premonition that the woman the little white dragon was talking about should be Fairy Jing. Now that he heard the woman's confirmation, his heart couldn't help but ache. He really didn't expect that the snobbish woman in his heart would die to save him. Could it be that she didn't only have herself in her heart? Could it be that she wasn't as selfish as he thought? "Does your heart ache?" The woman asked indifferently. "If you don't want your heart to ache, it's better to say what you know. If you say it, no one will get hurt because of you. If this junior says it, this junior's brother might not be in danger, but my Shang Huaming senior might die because of this." Xiao Hua still shook his head and said, "Moreover, this junior will definitely not let that woman die for no reason." The woman was furious again. You really think I don't dare to do it? Moreover, you massacred my Bai Qingyu, killed nearly 1,000,000 of my demons, and ruined many of my children? Could it be that this isn't worth that woman of yours?" "That's right." Xiao Hua clenched his teeth and said, "Suppress my body and kill my old friend. I will definitely kill Bai Qingyu, demon monarch Bai Qingyu." "Damn it." The woman was infuriated. "Bai Qingyu has already been killed by you, yet you are still so arrogant." All right, I will kill this little evil dragon right now." Seeing that the woman was really going to kill the little white dragon, Xiao Hua hesitated for a moment. Holding back the grief in his heart, he clenched his teeth and said, "Killing Bai Qingyu and revealing the location of the rainbow conch are two different things now. I've made it clear that the rainbow conch seems to be closely related to me, Shang Huaming. If I'm not mistaken, he should be my senior. Therefore, I can't leave his life in the hands of others, and I can't tell anyone about him." "I understand." At this moment the woman also understood. Seeing Xiao Hua take half a step back, she nodded and said, "You're right, this matter definitely cannot be known by outsiders. However, I'm not an outsider. If possible, this junior is all ears." Xiao Hua's face sank as he asked faintly, "Actually, this junior has also heard it. Senior doesn't seem to know about Shang Huaming's. Not bad." The woman didn't conceal anything and replied, "I've never heard of Shang Huaming in the 3 continents. I don't even know how he's related to Shang Huaming." "Yes, Shang Huaming is such a small place. If not for someone close to him, no one would know about him." Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and didn't point out where Shang Huaming was. The woman was silent for a moment before speaking again. "Do you know the Red Sea domain?" Speaking of the Red Sea domain, the woman's tone fluctuated again, as if she was wiping away a long time ago. "Oh." Xiao Hua was slightly taken aback. However, after thinking for a moment, he shook his head and said, "This junior has just stepped into the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and came to Bai Qingyu. I'm not familiar with the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, so I don't know about the Red Sea domain." Hehe. The Red Sea domain isn't a place in the Thousand Demons sacred realm. It's a realm. The woman smiled and explained. Hearing the woman's words, Xiaohua was shocked again. He originally thought that the woman would talk about the 10,000 demons realm. Who knew that the Red Sea domain would appear? Xiaohua replied cautiously again. Forgive this junior for being ignorant. This junior only knows about the 3 continents and the 10,000 demons realm. I don't know about the Red Sea domain. Well, it's normal that you don't know about it. The woman's tone was filled with vicissitudes. Her indescribably beautiful face was filled with worry. In the 3 continents, I'm afraid that other than me, and that rainbow conch you saw earlier, no one else knows about that place. What a beautiful place it is. The entire realm is filled with serene blue seawater. Every day the Red Sea domain rises from the seawater, and every night, there are endless stars that appear. The stars seem to be embedded in the seawater, and every one of them emits bright starlight. Under the starlight, countless members of the shell race are either cultivating, playing the zither, singing, or talking about love. The Red Sea domain is like the eyes of the sea god. Every day it hangs in the seawater, watering the growth of the shell race with gentle love. There's no fighting, no killing, no competitiveness. Every ray of sunlight is filled with lazy longing, and every strand of seawater is filled with longing. Only when the Red Sea domain descends south, that broken halo will melancholy rise in the hearts of the shell race. At this point, when the woman heard this, tears appeared in her eyes. They were crystal clear, and rolled down her face that could be broken with a flick of a finger. There was actually a 7-colored rainbow, and it was truly charming. The woman's eyes slowly transformed. One was like a rainbow and the other was like a star. It took the time it took to drink a cup of tea. Xiaohua didn't dare to disturb her, and only stood there quietly. My name is Beixian. When the woman's eyes reappeared, Xiaohua heard her speak in an exceptionally clear voice. It's from the Red Sea region. My true body, I believe you've heard of it and guessed that it is the Rainbow Sea God shell. The one you saw earlier is my lover, the Rainbow Sea God shell. His name is Bei Ming. See, although Xiaohua had heard the woman's words before, and his heart was somewhat prepared, when the woman named Bei Xian, personally admitted that she was the Rainbow Sea God shell's lover, Xiaohua couldn't help but take a deep breath. In his mind, he couldn't help but call out the equally beautiful and noble appearance of the 10,000 demon realm's Empress Xian Wan. Bei Xian didn't pay attention to Xiaohua's strange state, and continued, unfortunately, even 1,000,000 years of happiness is short-lived. Once the calamity comes, everything can only turn into memories. The human race of the hidden immortal continent had written many stories, and many of them were the same as what happened in the Red Sea domain. Experts from other realms attacked and broke the peace of the Red Sea domain. The Red Sea god of the Red Sea domain led the shell race to protect their homeland with their lives, and fought against the invaders. But the invaders of the sea race were too powerful. The shell race's shells were tough, and their bodies were weak and delicate. They were no match for the sea race. In just 1,000 years, the Red Sea domain turned into a blood domain. Everywhere was filled with blood and savagery. When Bei Ming and I were fighting against the sea race, we suddenly encountered a spatial fissure, and luckily escaped from the massacre of the sea race. But in the turbulent flow of space, I was separated from him again. I relied on the hardness of my shell to avoid being killed by the spatial fissure, and drifted to the 3 continents, but I don't know where he went. From then on, he turned into a mark and only existed in my memory. Although I knew that this was a strange realm, I always hoped that he could wander there like me. So I left behind an order for my descendants. As long as there was a 7-colored brilliance, whether it was the human race, the sea race, the monster race, or the spirit race, they had to report it to me immediately. But over the years I was disappointed again and again, and in the end I was on the verge of despair. Until about 200 years ago, a jade eyes appeared in front of me by chance. At this point Bei Xian raised her head to look at Xiaohua, and asked, I've said enough, whether you believe me or not. Anyway, I won't kill you. His information is too important, so important that I don't dare to let go of any opportunity. As for your substitute, I'd rather suppress him until he's old than search his soul, unless it's the moment of his death. Of course, if you don't say anything, I definitely won't let you go. Bei Xian's tone was so resolute, more eternal than the stars in the sky. Xiaohua was very moved. What was the difference between this kind of stubbornness and Shue's loneliness in the dark side of space? What was the difference between this and the stone statue's protection, or even longer? Xiaohua really couldn't find any reason to refuse this pitiful Bei Xian, even if Bei Xian-er's actions really hurt him. Xiaohua even felt that if Xianyan and Bei Xian-er appeared in front of him at the same time, he would very likely give Bei Ming to Bei Xian-er. Of course, fortunately, this kind of situation didn't happen. Moreover, Xiaohua couldn't be sure that Bei Ming was the Minghua that Xianyan spoke of, although the two legendary existences both had the word Ming in their names. Xiaohua sighed, Senior's deep yearning. This junior can empathize with it. This junior also has a loved one, but we can't meet. This junior is willing to tell Senior where I saw this senior. Okay? Bei Xian-er's voice trembled. Where? Where is he? Before saying this junior has a small request. After all, this involved the life and death of the rainbow conch. Xiaohua was just too careless. He still wanted to verify the truth of Bei Xian-er's words. Bei Xian-er clearly misunderstood Xiaohua's meaning. She said with some displeasure, Human, don't worry. As long as you tell me where Bei Ming is, I can give you anything you want in the Thousand Beasts sacred realm. I can even help you cultivate to the highest realm in the 3 continents. Senior misunderstands. Xiaohua said with a smile. This matter involves Senior Bei Ming's life and death. This junior doesn't dare to be careless. If Senior can show me the image of the sea god, perhaps this junior will be more at ease. How dare you? Bei Xian-er lightly reprimanded, causing the entire rainbow space to shake. The image of the sea god is actually that of a mortal like you. At this point, Bei Xian-er stopped. She seemed to think for a moment and nodded. I understand what you mean. With that, Bei Xian-er didn't seem to do anything. The rainbow light in front of Xiaohua boiled violently like flames soaring into the sky. The image of the sea god proudly flew out from the flames. The upper body of this image was that of a woman, with a thin waist and full breasts. Her 2 hands were placed in front of her chest, and her 10 fingers formed a seal. As for the lower body from the waist down, it wasn't the legs of an ordinary person, but a snake tail. Wasn't it exactly the same as Shang Huaming's god statue? Chapter 4393. Seeing this, Xiaohua no longer had any doubts. He bowed and said, Junior has seen it. Thank you, Senior. Once the image of the sea god appeared, Bei Xian-er didn't dare to stand in the air. She lowered her head slightly and landed below the image of the sea god. Hearing Xiaohua's words, she respectfully raised her hand. The image of the sea god turned into a sky full of fireflies and slowly disappeared. Do you believe me now? Bei Xian-er asked faintly. Yes. Xiaohua nodded. Junior has no more objections. Although Junior doesn't know if Senior and Senior Bei Ming are really lovers, but there is some relationship after all. Junior has decided to take a gamble. You don't believe this? Bei Xian-er was really speechless. You are too careful. It's just a trace of Bei Ming. Why do you have to be so careful? According to Xiaohua's previous thoughts, no matter what the rainbow conch was, as long as he reached the 10,000 demon realm, he would immediately throw it to a place and ignore it. As for the life and death of the rainbow conch, it was not something he was willing to care about. Since he met Bei Xian-er today, this Bei Xian-er was obviously related to the rainbow conch. And if there was no accident, her words should be true. After all, this was the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm, not the Dawn Rain Continent. Bei Xian-er couldn't know about the corner of the Dawn Rain Continent's yellow flower ridge, let alone the god statue hidden in his space. Of course, it couldn't be ruled out that Bei Xian-er and the rainbow conch were enemies. After she obtained the rainbow conch, she immediately killed it. This was also the reason why Xiaohua wanted to take a gamble. This junior met Senior Bei Ming in an extremely secretive place. Xiaohua thought for a moment and explained, and Junior only knows that this place is in the West Sea. As for where it is, Junior can't find it. No matter. Bei Xian-er smiled. You just need to tell me the approximate location of the West Sea, and I can find it. Actually, Xiaohua hesitated and said, after Junior left, Senior Bei Ming was no longer there. There is no meaning in Senior going there. Ah, what do you mean by that? Bei Xian-er was stunned for a moment. However, after a few breaths, she suddenly froze. The entire space was dead silent. There was not a trace of sound. Then the entire space shook violently. Countless seven-colored flowers bloomed uncontrollably. Baixian-er's stuttering voice resounded throughout the entire space. You mean heat on your body? Happiness had come too suddenly. Even Baixian-er, a true supreme expert of the thousand demons' sacred realm, could not help but lose her composure. Xiaohua took a small detour. This was the effect he wanted. Looking at Baixian-er's ecstasy, his previous doubts had completely disappeared. Xiaohua smiled and said, I'll let Senior know. What Senior wants, the rainbow conch is actually on Junior. Junior can give it to Senior at any time. Whoop! The rain of light fell like tears, wetting the space, wetting Xiaohua's domain, and also wetting Baixian-er's heart. The entire world trembled in this rain of light, just like Baixian-er's choked heart. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Baixian-er stopped trembling. She said softly, Where is he? Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, Senior, Junior has placed the rainbow conch in the Kunlun immortal realm. The Kunlun mirror cannot be opened in Senior's domain. Give me the Kunlun mirror. I have a way. Baixian-er said without hesitation. Xiaohua was even more embarrassed. He smiled and said, This Kunlun mirror is Junior's natal magic treasure. I'm afraid it's not easy to give it to Senior. Baixian-er's expression changed slightly when she heard this. Senior, don't misunderstand. Xiaohua hurriedly explained. Senior only needs to open this domain, and Junior can take out the rainbow conch. You can't give me the Kunlun mirror? Baixian-er asked again. Xiaohua frowned slightly. After a moment he smiled and said, Senior, please rest assured. Junior is a man of his words. Once I promise, I will definitely do it. Moreover, with Senior's ability, how can Junior escape? Besides, Junior can find such a powerful backer like Senior. Junior won't find trouble for himself for no reason. Yes. Baixian-er nodded and said proudly, You don't dare. Not to mention the thousand demons' sacred realm, even if it's the hidden immortal continent or the pure land world. As long as I want, I can kill you no matter where you hide. Yes. Xiaohua said with a smile. Junior won't be so ungrateful and overestimate himself. While speaking, Baixian-er's figure flashed and turned into thousands of seven-colored halos. Then the seven-colored world in front of Xiaohua suddenly opened. Amidst the soaring brilliance, the dazzling starry sky appeared above his head again. As soon as Xiaohua's aura appeared, Wen Chu and the others immediately sensed the location of the space. The tension immediately disappeared without a trace. Wen Chu said happily, Fellow immortal Xiao? The rainbow sea god Shell and the other two great sages also said happily, Ancestor. Unfortunately, before they finished speaking, Xiaohua's voice transmitted to Wen Chu, the celestial being, Taoist sorcerer and Feng Wu. The four of them couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Wen Chu, Taoist sorcerer and Feng Wu didn't move. The celestial being took advantage of the three great sages looking at the soaring seven-colored halos to enter the space with the 36 scattered nascent souls. You don't have to come over. Xiaohua and I have something important to do. Baixian-er's voice sounded very majestic in the distance. At the same time, a seven-colored halo rose in front of the great sages. Not only did it block the three great sages, but it also separated Wen Chu, Feng Wu, Taoist sorcerer from Xiaohua. Yes, the three great sages of the demon clan didn't dare to disobey the order. They responded in a low voice and still stood in midair. Wen Chu and the other two also stood in midair, and didn't seem to be on guard. Senior, please wait a moment. Xiaohua smiled and put his hand into his pocket. But at this moment, Xiaohua stopped again and said with a smile, By the way, Senior, can you let Junior's brother out first? Junior is really worried about his injury. Baixian-er seemed a little unhappy, but she didn't say anything. In the light and shadow, the figures of Little White Dragon and Jade Wave appeared. What's going on? The five-colored sea god Shell was stunned all of a sudden. He looked at Jade Wave in disbelief. He could understand why Baixian-er took Little White Dragon away, but he didn't know why Baixian-er also took Jade Wave away. However, before he could say more, Xiaohua had already taken out the space from his pocket. Looking at the Kunlun mirror, Baixian-er's eyes suddenly became fiery. She stared at the Kunlun mirror. Xiaohua didn't panic. First he urged his spiritual power. The mirror flashed with brilliance, and Little White Dragon and Jade Wave were taken in. Seeing Xiaohua shamelessly take Jade Wave away, the five-colored sea god shell wanted to say something again. But at this moment, a brilliance rushed out of the space, and a seven-colored conch immediately appeared from the brilliance. Whoosh! As soon as the seven-colored conch appeared, without waiting for Xiaohua to raise his hand to take it, a seven-colored tentacle appeared out of thin air, and immediately imprisoned the area within 100 miles. After a gust of wind swept past, the seven-colored conch disappeared without a trace. Haha! Xiaohua said with a smile. Senior is really a little impatient, ouch. Before Xiaohua could finish his words, the voice stopped abruptly. But just like before, under the torn earth, another seven-colored light and shadow suddenly appeared. Baixian Er's huge seven-colored shell appeared in the light and shadow like the sky. Beyond the expectations of the three great saints of the demon clan, it covered Xiaohua again. At this moment, Xiaohua didn't use his spiritual power to teleport at all. Instead, he narrowed his eyes, and the corner of his mouth carried a trace of a smile, as if everything was within his calculations. Just as the seven-colored shell covered Xiaohua in a flash, Xiaohua's mind rolled, and he pulled Celestial, Shi and Hui out of the space. As the seven-colored space descended, it enveloped all of them. In the blink of an eye, it mysteriously disappeared in front of the 6th-9th grade elemental energy experts. The golden-winged Great Peng's brain wasn't enough. He looked at the night sky, then at the five-colored sea god shell, and asked curiously, Shell Saint, what is the ancestor doing? The five-colored sea god shell was also puzzled. He hesitated for a moment, then replied, it seems that the ancestor and Taoist Xiao still have some things to discuss? As the five-colored sea god shell spoke, it looked at Wen Chu and Feng Wu. What about those 9th-grade essence energy spirit bodies? Where is that three-headed, six-armed celestial? At this moment, the golden-winged Great Peng suddenly realized that the 36th tribulation scattered nascent souls had disappeared, and the celestial skeleton had also disappeared. Feng Wu indifferently replied, Peng Saint, Bei Saint and I Saint, although this is the first time we've met, this saint also belongs to the Great Sage Hall, so this saint wants to hear more about the Great Sage Hall. I wonder if the three of you can enlighten me? The flying feather void beast immediately understood Feng Wu's meaning. He originally wanted to say something, but when he saw Feng Wu's confident appearance and thought of Feng Wu's previous threat, he rolled his eyes and said with a smile, of course. However, before this saint talks about the Great Sage Hall, I wonder where in the Thousand Demons sacred realm does Phoenix Saint think the Great Sage Hall is located? Feng Wu asked with interest. Hearing Ni Saint's words, it seems that the Great Sage Hall isn't in the Thousand Demons sacred realm? Oh, how does Phoenix Saint know? The golden-winged Great Peng tactfully joined in the discussion about the Great Sage Hall, although the five-colored sea god seashell was a little concerned and had no intention of participating in the so-called discussion. He also knew in his heart that not only was Feng Wu a seven-star great saint, whose future potential far exceeded that of a great saint like himself, but even Wen Chu and Taoist, which weren't people that he could kill today. However, if he missed today, his star-concealing lake, Peng Saint's blue moon sky, and Ni Saint's flux forest would all be in the open, while Wen Chu and the other two would be in the dark. If they wanted to go against him, the Thousand Demons sacred realm would probably never have a day of peace. The saying that there would not be a great sage in the Thousand Demons sacred realm for the next 100,000 years was definitely not a lie. Therefore, the five-colored sea god shell only listened from the side and did not leave easily. Chapter 4394. Of course, whether it was the five-colored sea god shell, the flying feather void beast, the golden-winged Great Peng or Feng Wu, Wen Chu and Taoist sorcerer, they all paid attention to their surroundings, waiting for the seven-colored light to appear again. However, as they waited, the east was already daybreak. When Xiaohua saw the seven-colored light appear again, he didn't panic at all. He pulled Tianran Hui and Shi out of the space and stood in midair, coldly looking ahead. Seeing that Xiaohua didn't teleport and instead sent the three 9th level essence power cultivators into his space, Baixian couldn't help but be shocked. She asked curiously, why didn't you escape? Could it be you already knew that I wouldn't let you go? Xiaohua, Tianran Hui, and Shi released their domains to protect themselves. On Tianren's shoulder, the dream mirage butterfly lay there obediently. Xiaohua said coldly again. You think too highly of yourself. You're just a foreign race from the Red Ocean domain that wandered to our 3 continents. Do you really think you're an ancestor? How could a foreign race know the power of our human race? Haha, the human race is just one of the 10,000 spirits. It's not even comparable to the monster race. How dare you compare to my shell race? When Bei Xian saw that Xiaohua was trapped in her space again, and that the 7-colored conch was already in her hands, she simply withdrew her previous attitude and laughed proudly. However, your human race's self-righteousness is really too powerful. It can be said to be the #1 divine ability in the 3 continents. When I was in the Red Ocean domain, I never thought that in this world, there would be such a weak spirit seed that actually calls itself the leader of 10,000 spirits. It's really the biggest joke in the world. It's really unimaginably thick skin. Oh, I remember that the human race has a saying called, deceiving one's ears and stealing a bell. Is that what it means? Hearing Bei Xian's carefree mockery, Xiaohua only rubbed his nose, the corner of his mouth also revealing a mocking smile. There was no other reason. The vastness of this world had long surpassed Xiaohua and Bei Xian's knowledge. Although Bei Xian's cultivation was far superior to Xiaohua's, she didn't have Xiaohua's good fortune. How could she know about the ruins in the primitive continent? Therefore, although her words were somewhat reasonable, they were not completely correct. Xiaohua also disdained to argue with her. Moreover, Xiaohua also understood that after Bei Xian obtained the rainbow-colored conch, the greatest burden in her heart had been removed. It was inevitable that she would vent some of her emotions. Perhaps this mockery was her way of venting all the suffering she encountered in the 3 continents. Deceiving myself? Xiaohua indifferently replied. Our human race's classical stories are as numerous as the hairs on an ox. Presumably, how could a brainless shellfish like you understand them? Don't think that just because you can take human form you can compare with us humans. Of course, if your excellency wishes to improve and draw closer to the human race, this Xiao does not mind gifting you a book. First, you will understand what it means to deceive one's ears while stealing a bell. Then you will understand what it means to have a sense of propriety, justice, integrity, and shame. Finally, you will understand what it means to repay kindness with enmity. Haha. Bei Xian's flirtatious body swayed unlimitedly. In an instant, countless illusions of copulation appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes. Her voice, which was like lust, resounded throughout the entire 7-colored space. Little doll, you are really eloquent. However, you are still too young. Do you know what I have seen the most in the vicissitudes of this world? It is nothing more than selfish desires, possession, war, mutual deception. Xiaohua's tone was still indifferent. Oh. Bei Xian stared blankly for a moment before asking curiously, you? How did you know? There is a saying in Buddhism. If there is Buddha in the heart, all things are Buddha. If there is devil in the heart, all things are devil. Xiaohua coldly replied. You are the descendant of the shell race's royal family. You were chased by the sea race and escaped from the Red Sea domain. All you want is revenge, and your memories are filled with bone-deep hatred. What else can you see? You don't need to say anything, this Xiao knows. You? Bei Xian was shocked. She said in shock, you? How do you know so much? Did he tell you? As she spoke, the space within 10,000 li around Xiaohua rippled with blue waves that soared into the sky, just like the shock and vigilance in Bei Xian's heart. Xiaohua didn't pay attention to Bei Xian's question. Instead, his eyes flashed with benevolence as he said, the matters of this world are always impermanent, and they will never change because of your preferences. Whether you like the matters of this world or not, they happen every day. Whether it is love, hatred, affection, or enmity, there are many of them. This Xiao doesn't know what your shell race thinks. But our human race has always placed love as the #1 priority. This world cannot be without love, nor can it be without warmth. If you place love in your heart and use your eyes to see love, everything in the world will change. No need to say any more. Bei Xian interrupted Xiaohua. What you said is very good. You have Buddha in your heart, and all things are Buddha. Unfortunately, I have devil in my heart and all things are devil. Even if you practice the flowery words of a Confucian cultivator to the extreme, you can't change me. I only want to know. How did you know? That I am the descendant of a royal family? I guessed. Xiao Hua saw that his persuasion was unsuccessful, and he sighed in his heart as he replied. Bai Xian'er frowned and shook her head slightly. How can I believe that? Could it be that you were sent by the hibernating Sea King? Don't make blind guesses. Xiao Hua waved his hand. This Xiao has nothing to do with the Sea King. This Xiao only guessed from your previous words. Say it. Bai Xian'er looked at Xiao Hua with interest and said with a smile, the brains of your human race are really powerful. If what you said is reasonable, I can consider erasing your memories and let you go. Don't lie to this Xiao. Xiao Hua snorted coldly. 200 years ago, you already had the idea of killing me to silence me. How can you change your mind now? A strange light appeared in Bai Xian'er's eyes, but she didn't say anything else. When my human race lies, we always pay attention to 9 sentences of truth and 1 sentence of lie. Your Excellency has been in my 3 continents for so long, you must have learned a lot from my human race. At least this kind of lying has already reached the essence of the human race. Even now, Xiao Hua still didn't forget to dig at Bai Xian'er, trying to anger her. This Xiao believes that most of what you said earlier is true. After all, you don't have to hide it. However, you lied about your background, but this Xiao was able to tell this lie because this Xiao was born in Shanghua Ming. Actually, it's very simple. How can a spatial passage be easy to find? During a great battle, it's possible to bump into a temporary spatial passage, but that's not even a 90% chance of survival. If there were more than one Shell race that escaped, this Xiao might still believe it. However, a couple just happened to escape, so how can this Xiao believe it? Since you were able to escape safely, you must have made a foolproof plan. Although I don't know what your Shell race is like, this Xiao believes that in times of danger, the bad habit of letting the clan leader, elders, and other higher-ups leave first isn't something that only my human race has. No matter what, the Shell race has to let the descendants of the royal family leave first with the pure bloodline of the Shell race. Moreover, I also believe that you two aren't the only ones who made such preparations. There must be other Shell race members as well. All of you are using different spatial passageways. If I'm not wrong, these spatial passages are either unidirectional or destroyed after being used. As expected, it's just a guess. However, your guesses are more or less correct. Bai Xian'er nodded. However, this doesn't seem to be the root of your suspicions. That's right. Xiao Hua nodded. Of course, this is just this Xiao's suspicion. There are 2 things that this Xiao thinks of. 2? So many. Bai Xian'er was shocked. I thought it was flawless. First of all, Xiao Hua smiled slightly, as if he was facing death calmly. If the ending of the story is that you repay the kindness of a drop of water with a gushing spring, then your words are correct. It fits the identity of a pair of unfortunate mandarin ducks wandering in a different world. However, the real ending is that you repay kindness with enmity. You actually trap this Xiao in your domain again. This can only mean that you already had the intention to silence me. Why do you treat your benefactor like this? That's because you're afraid that I will reveal your whereabouts. You're being hunted down by others. You two aren't an ordinary Shell race couple, but the descendants of the Shell race's royal family. You even have the mission of spreading your bloodline in this different world. So when you just left my domain, you already made preparations? These 3 cultivators are your reinforcements? Bai Xian'er's beautiful face flashed with surprise once again. She raised her eyebrows and asked. That's right. This is only a kind of precaution. This Xiao also hopes that this Xiao's guess is false. However, when the 7-colored brilliance appeared again, this Xiao's heart had already turned cold. Xiao Hua's expression became even colder. This Xiao knows that this Xiao is still wrong. Since you're the descendants of the royal family, no matter if it's the human race or the Shell race, your heart and blood are all cold. You only have the royal family's mission in your hearts. The royal family's mission is not necessarily true. Bai Xian'er shook her head. Protecting your life is the most important thing. I definitely can't let the news of me and Bai Ming leak out. Therefore, you have to die. As she spoke, Bai Xian'er looked at Tianran, Shi and Qi. She sighed and said, You didn't pull them in to help you, but to send them to their deaths. Are you that confident? Xiao Hua's expression turned cold. Of course, Bei Xian'er faintly smiled. The entire space was like spring flowers blooming. This is my big 7-colored brilliance shell world, not your domain. In this shell world I am a god. An unparalleled god. Xiaohua's eyes curved like 2 crescent moons. Could it be that you're not curious about the second reason why I guessed your true goal? Bei Xian'er's expression didn't change at all. However, her lips slightly shrank as if she was lightly biting them with her teeth. After a moment, Bei Xian'er actually stretched lazily. The bulge in front of her chest proudly rose into the air. Although Xiaohua knew that this was all an illusion, he couldn't help but feel his mouth go dry. If you're willing to say it, then say it. Bei Xian'er said with a smile. The more I listen to you, the more I find you interesting. I really can't bear to kill you. Right now, I'm considering whether or not I should keep you here to be happy with me every day. Chapter 4395. Don't. Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand. If that's the case, won't that Bei Ming from the Rainbow Conch kill me? He's still a child. How can he be your opponent? Bei Xian'er smiled like a flower. But it's strange. Why does he look like he's only 20,000 years old? How would I know? Xiaohua spread his hands, indicating that he knew nothing about this. So you don't have to worry. Bei Xian'er smiled again. Even if he's able to break away from being a child in a few years, he might not know how to be jealous. Sweat. Xiaohua thought of Bei Xian'er's age and couldn't help but feel nauseous. Besides, Bei Xian'er continued happily, even if he's mature now, he definitely won't be jealous. Because he and I aren't a couple. Ah? Xiaohua was stunned, but then he understood and nodded. I understand. You saw that Fairy Jing sacrificed her life to save me. So you used the feelings between couples to move me. You're really smart. Bei Xian'er sighed. That's right. My Red Ocean Domain's shell race doesn't need couples to reproduce. The so-called couples are just a pastime. Bei Ming is just my clan brother. For your clan brother, you've been searching for so long. Xiaohua asked with a double meaning. Of course. Bei Xian'er smiled. Although he's my clan brother, we're all descendants of the sea god and have the same bloodline. Besides, whether the Red Ocean Domain still exists or not is another matter. He and I might be the only 2 descendants of the sea god left in this world. We can be considered a lonely pair. Bei Xian'er wasn't in a hurry to kill him, and instead seemed to be in a good mood. In particular, she didn't ask him the same questions as before. Instead, she asked him the second reason why he saw through her thoughts. Xiaohua's heart became more and more confident. He smiled and said, if that's the case, then this Xiao was wrong about you. Kinship actually has a place in your hearts. It's really rare. Although my shell race isn't a human race, we still have flesh and blood. How can we be as cold as you say? Bei Xian'er was even more determined to keep Xiaohua here. Naturally, she wasn't in a hurry. Your Excellency, you're not looking for Bei Ming, but for the statue of the sea god, right? Xiaohua suddenly asked. Ah! Bei Xian'er was startled. The entire 7-colored shell world dimmed. How did you know? This is naturally one of the reasons why I was able to guess your true intentions. Xiaohua said with a smile, if it were an ordinary couple from the Shell clan, how could they carry the statue that represents the dignity of the sea god with them? They probably won't even be able to see it, right? I really admire you. Bei Xian'er was speechless. Do you have 5 bodies? Xiaohua asked very happily. Xiaohua was happy, but Bei Xian'er was unhappy. She reluctantly shook her chest, blinked her eyes and said, 3 body is fine, right? 3 bodies? Xiaohua was a bit confused. However, when he saw Bei Xian'er's swaying waist, he helplessly retreated and raised his gaze. So in the eyes of the descendants of the royal clan, there is no kinship. There is only power and responsibility. Xiaohua said word by word, your goal of sucking me into the 7-colored shell world again, other than to kill me, I'm afraid you also want to interrogate Shang Huaming's whereabouts, interrogate him about the whereabouts of the statue, right? Human race, oh human race. Bei Xian'er sighed again. I really want to take out your head and see how it grows. Are you a roundworm in my stomach? You even know what I'm thinking? I'm truly speechless. AI. Xiaohua's tone was abnormally lonely. You're destined to not be able to see what I'm thinking. I'm also destined to not be your roundworm. At this point, Bei Xian'er couldn't be bothered to say anything more. She said, actually, when you said you saw Bei Ming's true body, my heart skipped a beat. My worries for the past 200 years have finally come true. Because what I need isn't Bei Ming, but that statue of the sea god. That statue contains the inheritance of my Shell clan. And it also contains something necessary for the awakening of my Shell clan's divine body. I don't quite understand how Bei Ming could become a child. But since he's become a child, then the statue of the sea god definitely isn't on him. Then where is the statue of the sea god? I think since you've seen it, then it must be Shanghua Ming. So at first I wanted to pretend that I knew about Shanghua Ming. But later on, I thought that if I knew about Shanghua Ming, you would definitely try to test me again. So, I simply admitted that I didn't know about Shanghua Ming, and told you everything. But for Bei Ming, why should I be afraid of erasing the memories of your substitute? I could have searched his soul long ago. But for the sake of my Shell clan's only hope, I didn't dare to act rashly. Can you act now? Xiaohua smiled. Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to find the statue of the sea god? At this point, Xiaohua's expression suddenly froze, revealing a bitter expression. I'm sure you understand. Bei Xian'er smiled. If the statue of the sea god is on you, I only need to kill you. Then wouldn't the statue of the sea god be mine? If the statue of the sea god isn't on you, then it must be on Shanghua Ming. Since I know about Shanghua Ming, then what value do you have? If I kill you, not only can I ensure that my whereabouts aren't leaked, but I can also ensure that the news of the statue of the sea god isn't leaked. Moreover, if you're sent by the Sea Clan, I can even avenge the deaths of my Shell clan's compatriots. Is this the legendary killing 3 birds with 1 stone? Alas, looks like you're determined to kill me. Xiaohua said helplessly. Yes, I was originally hesitant, but you're really too smart. Oh, has anyone ever said that you're as meticulous as silk and as sweet as honey? Bei Xian'er suddenly asked. Xiaohua was slightly taken aback. He shook his head slightly and said, no. Isn't Fairy Jing sacrificing her life for you because she loves you so much? Bei Xian'er smiled. I'm also afraid of falling into your evil hands, so I'd better kill you first. Really heartless. Xiaohua stroked his chin and sighed. If you love someone, do you have to let them die? You're really thinking too much. Bei Xian'er pursed her lips and smiled. You should become a ranger. Maybe you'll capture the hearts of many chivalrous women. Looking at Bei Xian'er's smile, how could it be that she was going to kill him? Xiaohua smiled and said, I wonder if this item will be able to capture your heart? As he spoke, Xiaohua raised his hand and took out an object from his bosom and threw it into the air. In the air, the statue of the sea god suddenly emerged from the 7 colored threads of light. Although it was ordinary and lightless in Bei Xian'er's eyes, Bei Xian'er's complexion changed greatly. Her body trembled and she almost collapsed. She screamed and was about to fall to the ground, but the moment her body transformed, Bei Xian'er suddenly raised her head. Her face was already ferocious. Boom! A thunderous roar exploded from the statue of the sea god, and the surrounding several li were filled with boiling threads of light. However, there were no fragments of the statue. It turned out that the statue of the sea god was just a phantom that Xiaohua waved. Damned humans! Bei Xian'er shouted. Her body suddenly expanded and occupied more than half of the space in an instant. You actually dare to scare me. If I don't kill you today, I swear I'm not human. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua laughed and said confidently, if you can't kill me, you don't have to regret it. You're not human at all. Damn it. Bei Xian'er cursed angrily. Xiaohua didn't see any movement from her, but he felt that countless tides began to surge around him. Waves of spatial power several times more ferocious than the collapse of heaven and earth rushed out from the void, violently wanting to tear his body apart. Troublesome. Although Xiaohua laughed, his heart was extremely bitter. He had just returned to the 3 continents, and the first thing he did was to oppose the South Sea Dragon Palace. He encountered the 4 Seas Great Array, faced the 4 Sea Dragon Kings, and fought the 4 Great Dragon Emperors. Now he had reached the Thousand Beasts Sacred Realm. Not only did he have to fight against the 3 great sages of the demon race, He also had to resist the killing intent of the great sage ancestor in the great rainbow halo shell world. If he faced this so-called ancestor directly, Xiao Hua might have some confidence. However, Xiao Hua understood that this great rainbow halo shell world was constructed by Bei Xian Er's shell. It could be said that it was Bei Xian Er's life boundary. This was different from the Four Seas Great Array, or the Dragon Emperor Great Array of the Four Seas Dragon Palace. The Four Seas Great Array required the four great dragon emperors as the eye of the array, which was activated by the four sea dragon kings. In this great rainbow halo shell world, there was no eye of the array. This barrier itself was Bei Xian. All the attacks within the barrier could be created with just a thought from Bei Xian. Just as she had said earlier, she was the god within this barrier. Even if Xiao Hua had heaven-defying divine abilities, he would still be restricted by her in this barrier. This was also the fundamental reason why Xiao Hua's space couldn't be sensed in this great rainbow halo shell world. Seeing the incomparably valiant power of space attacking him and his domain instantly shattering, Xiao Hua was greatly shocked. He hurriedly urged his magic power and was just about to use a thunderbolt technique. But right at this moment, waves of indescribable fluctuations came from afar. Everywhere these fluctuations passed, all of the spatial energy was erased, and all of the shattered space disappeared. In front of Xiao Hua's eyes was still a seven-colored barrier flickering with light. Huh! Bei Xian Er's surprised voice rang out, rippling in the nearby space. What is this? As she spoke, a golden tentacle appeared out of thin air and fell on the celestial's shoulder. Over there, the dream mirage butterfly flapped its wings. Waves of fluctuations were generated, breaking the illusion of the great rainbow halo shell world. I was lucky. Xiao Hua breathed a sigh of relief. He had previously seen the situation of Little White Dragon and Bai Bo in the illusion, so he knew that the illusion of this great rainbow halo shell world was formidable. Before entering, he had taken out the dream mirage butterfly from the space in advance. He didn't expect that it would really be useful. Otherwise, Bei Xian wouldn't have needed to use any tricks, and Xiao Hua would have fought with himself. Chapter 4396. Get your filthy hands off me, old beggar. In the eyes of the celestial, Bei Xian was nothing but a skeleton. He gave a loud cry and stretched out one of his 6 arms, which then transformed into a mountain range and landed on Bei Xian's tentacle. Immediately, the tentacle crumbled and turned into a blue color with golden threads. Woo! The celestial opened his mouth again, and the blue threads turned into a thin shadow and fell into his mouth. This is. Bei Xian was taken aback when she saw the blue shadow fly away. But before she could cry out in surprise, the celestial opened his other mouth again, and another faint blood-red shadow emerged behind the golden threads. Damn it! Bei Xian roared furiously. Boom! 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 The golden threads exploded at the same time, blocking the celestial suction force and causing the blood-red shadow to vanish instantly. Boom! Right after the blood-red shadow disappeared, the celestial's 2 arms stretched out of thin air and landed on the rainbow barrier. Open! The celestial roared furiously. His skinny arms strangely gripped the space, and as he exerted his strength, the space was torn apart like silk. The crack easily expanded and spread toward Bei Xian, who looked like a god. Humph! Bei Xian snorted coldly. Then a huge reef emerged like a star, and smashed toward the celestial like a meteor. The meteor produced a whistling noise, causing the entire space to tremble. It was quite different from the previous strange phenomenon. Another rock falling down. The celestial sneered. You are indeed an old beggar. Can't you have any other tricks up your sleeves? As the celestial spoke, 3 beams of different colors shot out from his 3 heads and tore apart the rainbow barrier. Then, he waved his 6 arms at the same time, smashed the reef and strode toward Bei Xian. Reverend Yun threw his head back and let out a long and sonorous roar when he heard the loud noises of breaking the reef. His dragon roar shattered countless rainbow light threads. Since you dare to provoke I'll show you what I can do. As he spoke, Reverend Yun's dragon body began to sway. Even before he launched the real attack, a boundless golden light flashed out of his dragon body, within which were dragon runes that blotted the sky and the earth as they thrust towards the great rainbow shell world. Wherever the dragon runes passed, they would be devoured. and as Reverend Yun's dragon body stretched for over 1,000 miles, the dragon runes had occupied the entire space within several thousand miles. Then, where did the dragon race come from? How could he be so powerful? Don't tell me there are dragons stronger than the profound armored pentahorn dragon in the four seas? Baixian was completely dumbfounded. Old beggar. There's always someone better than you. Don't think that just because you're some ancestor, you're not afraid of being looked down upon by others. Reverend Yun grinned coldly, then opened his mouth and unleashed the heavenly dragon speech magic again. Suddenly, some natural energies were produced in the shell, which transformed into countless fireballs and flew towards Baixian. Reverend Yun even reached out his golden claws and grabbed at the barrier. Similarly, the barrier was shattered by the dragon claws, and the colorful shadows were fleeing desperately like swimming fishes. Seeing that Reverend Tianren Yun had made his move, Shi dared not to be careless. The corners of his mouth curved into a cute smile, then he raised a hand and slapped his own head. Boom! Countless streams of fiend energy and fiend flame towered into the sky. The fiend hand and the fiend hand transformed into a huge pitch-black hand that glinted with a blood-red gleam, grabbing at another space. It was like a layer of silk that was spread out in the air, as 100 miles wide spatial folds were pulled up by the huge hand. Amidst the spatial folds, the colorful shadows were twisting like little tadpoles, trying to swim but having no strength to swing their tails. Are you really a fiend? Baixian could not find Shi's true form even though he was inside her own barrier, and she thought he was just an illusory fiend form. But when she saw the extremely pure fiend energy, which was even higher grade than that of ordinary fiends, she could not help but be surprised again. Haha. Shi opened his mouth and let out a very tempting and wild laugh. The sound echoed in the air and shook the seven-colored light. That's right, I'm a fiend. What do you think? Do you like me? Old beggar, do you want to taste something new? I'm a little fresh meat. I don't mind teaching you some new postures. Following this voice, layers of crimson-red devil chi appeared around Shi's body, and within this devil chi, many illusions appeared. In the illusion there were human beings, spirit creatures, dragons, ocean-kind beings, and even insects, mosquitoes, and flies. Regardless of whether they were human beings or mosquitoes, they were all crazily copulating with each other. Strange auras and desires seeped out from the evil chi. Baixian smiled. Her voice, which was like the sound of nature, echoed in the entire barrier. So you like this? Not bad, not bad. Look at your firm muscles. I think I can enjoy it. Shi answered proudly. His fiend body suddenly expanded, reaching a height of 1,000 miles. The demonic armor and other items that had covered his body earlier were all hidden within his body. The muscles on the surface of his body swam like horned dragons. The masculine lines on his body were exceptionally eye-catching under the pitch-black, night-like seven-colored light. Although Shi's appearance was revealed, it was no longer Xiaohua's appearance. Instead, it was abnormally handsome. He was truly a peerless talent. His eyebrows were filled with a kind of frivolity. That frivolous aura seemed to disperse the entire space. If I wasn't strong, how could I deal with you? If I don't make you wish you were dead, I won't be a fiend. Damn it. Hearing Shi's words, which were even more vulgar than those of a street scoundrel, Baixian, who was the descendant of the Shell clan's royal family, couldn't bear it anymore. With a tsunami-like roar, several vortexes, which were hundreds of miles wide, passed through the space and directly fell on Shi's fiend body. Damn it. Shi saw that the vortexes were filled with the power of space. Inside the vortexes, there were countless seven-colored light threads crazily rotating. His face changed slightly as he cursed. I just said a few words and you're angry? If you don't want me to do it, why are you so naked? Are you showing off your own body? Shi cursed, but his movements weren't slow. With a raise of his hand, the scarlet demonic chi immediately flew out. It also turned into a demonic pillar that was hundreds of miles wide and stabbed towards the vortexes. Buzz buzz. A series of loud rumbling noises came from the vortex. Countless devils within the devil chi intertwined with the seven-colored threads of light, either devouring or tearing at them. The moment the vortex was wiped out, the rumbling noises turned into shameless moans of lust. The devils even took on the appearance of slaughter and charged toward the vortex. Haha. Seeing Shi's methods, Xiaohua laughed loudly. He felt that he had vented his anger. Human. While Xiaohua was laughing, a voice came from behind him. I have to admit that you are the most powerful opponent I have seen in the 3 continents. Is that so? This Xiao is extremely honored. Xiaohua turned around with a smile on his face. He looked at Bei Xian, who was already wearing the 7-colored clothes, and said indifferently. However, even if you're a hero, once you're in my 7-colored shell world, you can only be a coward. As Bei Xian spoke, her expression suddenly changed, and she shouted, "Kill!" Following Bei Xian's shout, 3 more similar shouts came from the nearby space. Kill, kill, kill. After the space in front of Qi Shi and Celestial was torn apart, 3 figures that looked exactly like Bei Xian appeared. Each of them had a cold expression on their faces. Oh, Xiaohua didn't doubt Bei Xian's doppelganger ability in the 7-colored light shell world at all. He pinched his chin with a smile on his face and looked meaningfully at Bei Xian. What do you like, bears? Looking at the smile in Xiaohua's eyes, Bei Xian became even angrier. She raised a hand and waved it. An arm as big as a mountain came whistling through the air, accompanied by a rumbling sound like a tsunami. An extremely powerful force of space came rushing over and smashed into the edge of Xiaohua's domain. Boom! 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 Countless lightning threads were shattered, and the domain collapsed. The broken spatial folds rushed toward Xiaohua like a tidal wave. However, Xiaohua did not panic in the face of such a powerful attack, nor did he exert any magic power. Instead, there was a faint smile on his face. When the force of space came within 100 miles of him, he opened his mouth slightly and spat out a wisp of snow-white light. Meanwhile, Reverend Yun was waving his dragon body and exercising the heavenly dragon speech magic. The space of several thousand miles to his left was filled with dragon runes, and the 7-colored light threads were devoured by them. There were even fireballs in the nearby void. Reverend Yun grinned coldly and cried out into the distance, "So this is what the so-called descendants of the Shell clan are capable of." While speaking, Reverend Yun stretched out his 5 claws again and grabbed at the space. Immediately, one spatial crack after another appeared, spreading out in all directions like cracks in glass. Of course, Reverend Yun would not be fooled by this. He waved his dragon tail again and smashed it on the spatial crack. The 7-colored light threads within several thousand miles were shattered, and a series of rumbling noises spread into the depths of the space. Roar! Reverend Yun gave a furious roar. A golden light burst out from his dragon body as he thrust his dragon body once again toward the rumbling noises. Reverend Yun knew that Xiaohua's main purpose of summoning him out of the space was to help him break the great 7-colored shell realm. However, Reverend Yun had also told Xiaohua that the Pengu axe was capable of cutting Bei Xian's shell realm in half. However, Reverend Yun had tried his best to wield the Pengu axe in the South Sea Dragon Palace. How long had it been? Reverend Yun might be able to lift the Pengu axe, but it was absolutely impossible for him to wield it. Otherwise, Reverend Yun would have used the Pengu axe when he entered the great 7-colored shell realm. Chapter 4397. Xiaohua felt helpless when he saw that. However, he knew very well that although Bei Xian was said to be the master of this shell realm, she was like a god in this barrier. Nevertheless, Xiaohua had his own dimension, and his control of this dimension was not weaker than Bei Xian. Furthermore, Xiaohua understood that the shell realm was different from his own dimension. The shell realm had the effect of Bei Xian's natal shell, and was also the effect of her divine ability. Perhaps he was not Bei Xian's match, but Reverend Yun, Shi, and Celestial might not necessarily be her match. As long as the 4 of them could defeat Bei Xian, they would be able to break through the rainbow light shell world. Of course, as Bei Xian had said, she was omnipotent in this barrier. What she faced with Xiaohua and the others was just an incorporeal body condensed from light threads. In order to defeat her, they had to find her true form, or find the edge of the shell realm, which was the true form of the shell. Therefore, when Reverend Yun saw the void shattered, his dragon body flew towards the depths of the dimension. Although he could not sense the location of Bei Xian's true form, he could still fly to the edge of the dimension with his own overall strength. Kill! Reverend Yun flew for several tens of thousands of miles, and the dimension within the barrier was shattered by his mighty dragon body. When Reverend Yoon opened his mouth again and sprayed out another mouthful of dragon breath, trying to extinguish the seven-colored light within a 100 miles radius, a furious cry rang out. Bei Xian'er's illusory figure had once again appeared before Reverend Yoon. Reverend Yoon grinned coldly as the dragon breath fell towards Bei Xian'er. Bei Xian'er had a serious look in her eyes, but the expression on her face was somewhat contemptuous. She snorted coldly and said, "Boorish fellow." After that, Bei Xian'er raised her hand and waved it in the air. As if she was gently stroking a bronze mirror, a seven-colored barrier measuring several hundred miles in size emerged out of thin air. Inside the seven-colored barrier, countless splashes of water seemed to dance in the sea breeze. Boom! The dragon breath smashed onto the seven-colored barrier and produced a muffled vibration. Under the dragon breath, the barrier quickly dissolved, and streams of seven-colored light exploded in midair. Oh! Bei Xian'er was taken aback for a moment, but then she waved both hands again. Woo! The barrier suddenly shattered completely, some of them plunging into the void, some shooting towards Reverend Yoon. In just a few breaths of time, the broken pieces of the barrier had completely enveloped Reverend Yoon. Combine! Bei Xian'er cried out softly. Immediately, all the broken pieces began to flicker with a bright glow, transforming into a shackle and falling towards Reverend Yun's dragon body. It was a very powerful shackle, as it had completely confined the space within 1,000 miles around Reverend Yoon. Even when Reverend Yoon unleashed his dragon aura mixed with a golden beam, he could not break the shackle. Boom! Boom! The space within several thousand miles was shaking violently, as if the heaven and earth were closing up. Reverend Yun's body gradually turned stiff, as if he was really going to be imprisoned by Bei Xian'er. Reverend Yoon did not show any sign of panic. He slightly raised his 5 golden claws and grabbed onto the shackle again. As a result, the huge shackle seemed to be held up by a jade pillar, and it was difficult for them to close even a little bit. Immediately after that, the dragon horn on Reverend Yun's forehead shone with a 9-colored brilliance as well. The brilliance was a few times stronger than Bei Xian'er's 7-colored brilliance. Wherever the brilliance passed, the huge shackle would shatter into pieces, sending the broken shackles into the surrounding space. Damn it! In the face of such a formidable dragon, Bei Xian'er looked somewhat powerless. She cursed under her breath and raised her right hand again. Boom! A huge fist flashed and vanished, and after a few breaths of time, it reappeared in front of Reverend Yoon. Reverend Yoon opened his mouth and shot out a beam of light, which smashed right into the fist. The light beam pierced through the entire fist, causing it to slowly vanish into thin air. However, right at the moment when it disappeared, the fist suddenly flashed again. Taking the opportunity when Reverend Yoon raised his head to look at Bei Xian'er, it vanished into the barrier. When it reappeared, it had already landed right next to the golden barrier protecting Reverend Yun's body. Boom! The golden barrier shattered with a loud boom, and the fist hit right onto Reverend Yun's back. Roar! Reverend Yoon howled. A few scales on his back were shattered, and streams of dragon blood were oozing out. Ha ha ha! Bei Xian'er laughed complacently after her successful attack. The dragons of the 3 continents are indeed tender and adorable. But too bad, before she could finish talking about the victory, Reverend Yun's dragon body, which was twisting painfully, suddenly vanished as well. After that, Bei Xian'er felt a suffocating aura pressing down from the barrier above her head. Who is it? Bei Xian'er was greatly shocked, as she could not think of anyone who could escape from her perception within the barrier. Right when the question came out of her mouth, Reverend Yun's huge dragon tail came smashing down amidst the 7-colored glow of the defensive barrier, smashing right onto her head. How is this possible? Although Bei Xian'er was surprised, she waved her left hand and unleashed another 7-colored barrier, trying to fend off Reverend Yun's attack. But this time Bei Xian'er would be disappointed. The dragon tail's aura was extremely powerful, and the dragon's breath was as boundless as the sea. The force of its descent was like a hot knife through butter, shattering the barrier in an instant. The dragon's tail didn't even slow down as it struck Bei Xian'er's body. Shwa! Of course, Bei Xian'er's illusory body wasn't destroyed, but the light it emitted was weakened by 40%. Damn it! Bei Xian'er cursed angrily again. as her body suddenly transformed into a shell. After that, the 7 colors on the shell transformed into one huge light wheel after another, producing the sound of a tsunami as they smashed towards Reverend Yoon. Buzz buzz buzz. Swish swish swish. The sound of the tsunami caused the space within a radius of 10,000 kilometers to spin, and the wheel of light collided with it without any pattern. Not good. A strange feeling of dizziness came from Reverend Yun's mind, and he could not even maintain his balance with his huge body, as he was swaying uncontrollably in the air. Shwa! One of the light wheels landed on Reverend Yun's body and cut through one of his scales, as if the indestructible dragon scale had turned into an ordinary beast's skin. Roar! Reverend Yun felt a great pain. He opened his mouth and roared furiously, then with a sway of his dragon body, he shot straight up into the sky. After flying for over 100 miles, Reverend Yun raised his head slightly and gave another loud roar. After that, the dragon runes all over his body began to emerge from his skin, transforming into a light screen that rippled across his skin. Meanwhile, the 9-colored halo around his dragon horns began to grow denser, and the soul-shaking dragon pressure was increasing at an incredible rate. Break! As Reverend Yun let out a furious roar that sounded like the language of dragons, the light screen around his body rushed into his dragon horn. The 9-colored halo rippled and brought the light screen out of the dragon horn, transforming into a shadow of a dragon and pouncing towards Bei Xian'er. The shadow of the dragon was very strange. Not only were there light shadows and ripples in it, but there was also a very strong dragon pressure. Wherever the shadow passed, the spinning space would be restored, and the dizzying sound would disappear amidst the ripples. Even Bei Xian'er's body was trembling under the pressure of the dragon pressure. The 7-colored halo unleashed by Bei Xian'er could not stop the shadow of the dragon. It was like countless silkworms were devouring mulberry leaves, and a faint and disorderly noise was heard when the shadow of the dragon landed on Bei Xian'er's body. Swish! 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 The shadow of Bei Xian'er's halo grew weaker again. Reverend Yun laughed insidiously. He gave up on attacking Bei Xian'er, then controlled his dragon body and flew towards the depths of the space. He knew clearly that Bei Xian'er would still be waiting for him at the end of the space. As long as he destroyed Bei Xian'er's shadow again and again, he would be able to force Bei Xian'er's true form to show up. Sure enough, wherever the dragon body passed, the 7-colored halo would explode. At the end of the 7-colored halo barrier, Bei Xian'er appeared once again, gnashing her teeth in anger. The battle between the Devis and Bei Xian'er was different now. Right when the Devis destroyed the reef controlled by Bei Xian'er and took a step forward to tear the space apart, Bei Xian'er's body suddenly vanished in a bizarre manner. The heavenly being was stunned for a moment, and then a disdainful smile appeared on all 3 of its heads. After that, it didn't stop and flew in a certain direction. As it flew, its 3 mouths spat out beams of light that destroyed the space in its path. Boom! 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 The collapsed space actually formed the outline of a huge tunnel. Furthermore, the space destroyed by the Devis was different from the space destroyed by Reverend Yun, as the 7-colored light threads could not restore the space. While the Devis' 6 arms were waving, more inexplicable ripples seeped out from the gaps in the void and fell into the broken space, turning it into a chaotic state. Not only were the 7-colored halos devoured by the chaos, even some of the shadows were sucked into it and vanished. Kill. Following a coquettish grumble, Bei Xian'er once again revealed her figure at the side of the chaotic space. This time Bei Xian'er was no longer in her human form. Instead, she looked like a cuttlefish. Her 8 waving tentacles were all covered with sharp spikes. In fact, the spikes even flashed with an exceptionally bright radiance. Bei Xian'er showed no signs of stopping. Her tentacles, which looked like mountain ranges, danced in the sky and attacked the Devis. The tentacles simply ignored space, and as soon as they whistled through the air, they had already arrived before the Devis. Haha! After half a cup of tea's time, Bei Xian'er suddenly turned into a stream of light and disappeared. She then reappeared several hundred miles away. Her squid-like body swayed proudly as she laughed. What a boorish fellow! Let's see how long you can last. Boom! 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 The Devis lowered his head to look at the cracks on his body, and the pitch-black liquid flowing out from them. Ignoring them, He shot out beams of light again and continued to press toward base Yen'er. With every step he took, the 7-colored halos would be destroyed into chaos. You're tuning in to the Lee May's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.